Welcome. I'm here with Chris. We're still sitting here in our little exile in the future. We're exiled into the future, and we were talking about memory. And I hadn't checked the news today either, so let me see what's.
I checked it earlier. It's
going on.
same old shit. It's
the Iowa caucuses are today.
Yeah.
Is that for both parties? Like,
I don't know.
Republican and
I don't
Democrat?
know if they're doing caucuses for the Democratic Party because like they're just assuming Biden. I think I don't even know if they're really doing anything.
Oh,
even though
right.
They keep like there's people running, but I don't think the Democratic Party is taking any of them seriously or giving them any real really they're not really letting them really give a chance to primary the president. So
Let me check Twitter. See, did I bookmark anything? Nope, not much on Twitter. By the way, open panel as usual. Hop your asses on here if you want to talk. We were going to ask the AI something about time travel.
Right, or if
is it possible to influence the past from the future?
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to ask any particular person?
No, I'll just ask you.
We should ask Kurt Goodell.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Is a fascinating question that has intrigued scientists and philosophers for centuries. The current understanding, causality, or current understanding of physics, cause and effect move in one direction from the past to the future. The arrow of time. Events in the past create the conditions for future events, but future events cannot in turn influence the past that already happened. The principle of causality is fundamental to our scientific understanding of the universe. And weren't we talking about this? Was it Machine the other day in another context of, I think Jack. You and Jack both make the argument that the Big Bang, like you have to have a cause for all the stuff that happened after. And if the Big Bang is the cause, what caused the Big Bang? And I said, well, maybe causality is not the ultimate paradigm.
Yeah,
maybe that's
it's very possible. That is very possible.
Then they have something called the Novikov self-consistency principle, which is based on theoretical time travel ideas, proposes that even if time travel were possible, any attempt to change the past would be ultimately unsuccessful, create self-contradictions. The universe would find ways to ensure the original timeline remained intact. I don't know what that means. Like there's an intelligence to a universe, or it would just naturally adjust. But we're talking about influencing the past from the future, not the future from the past.
Mm-hmm.
This all started because I came across this diagram from Kurt Gödel, Einstein's friend, and it was like his model of space-time, and it had little points where you can move backwards in time. And so I was wondering if you could influence, if time is multi-directional or bidirectional, if you could influence time from the future. You could influence it on any point in the spectrum, just like you could space. So the past could influence the future, but the future could also influence the past. And that's how this started.
Well, I know that this is like the absolute worst source of a theory that you could have. This is the ultimate conjecture type argument because it's not even an argument. But this is I had a dream. Seriously, I'm actually going to tell you a theory that someone told me in a dream. So I mean, you can literally discard it immediately without any real without any real thought. But I had a dream once where like I was suddenly at a restaurant with this character or person I didn't know, and they were explaining to me that time doesn't work exactly the way that it doesn't work exactly as we think. It thinks it works somewhat closer to. He said that they told me that string theory wasn't true. That there were it wasn't the whole the whole multiverse where there's where every possibility happens all at once is always happening, and every decision creates every possibility and it splinters off. That's not how it works. There is a single main timeline, but we as people we have the ability to, because our minds aren't fully entrenched in time the way we think they are. So we have the ability to kind of communicate with ourselves in the past. We
Wait,
can't
I have a
really.
question. What does that mean? Because our minds are our
I don't.
bodies,
I
and our
don't
bodies
know.
are entrenched in time. So how could mind be not entrenched in like there
I
have to be something non-physical about it.
I agree. I agree.
But
I'm
this is just your dream figure, like your little waking life
yeah.
dreamland.
This was just a dream. Yeah, it's like waking life. It was just this is something this is something somebody told me in a dream. I don't fully understand it. I'm not saying that it's true. I'm just saying that this it was an interest. It's stuck with me for like I don't know 15 years now. So like I mean it's stuck with me really hard for whatever reason. And it was like it basically it was saying like what it like basically explained like kind of like the deja vu concept you see in like in the Matrix, right? Like the Matrix, like they say, like you see something twice, it means like something changed. I think it's not like that exactly, but it's like that when you experience deja vu, what you're
Yeah,
experiencing
even
is
deja vu as a real life phenomena is pretty bizarre and
yeah,
interesting. That sensation, it's so
like
real. It feels so real.
hmm basically
Never,
what the character explained to me is that like if you have like let's say that there's a moment where like you're about to pull out into traffic, right? And you suddenly and without any real reason suddenly before you pull out you stop real fast and you have like that moment of deja vu you're like it stops you and then right at that moment like a semi speeds by like going like that came out of nowhere and just like speeds out and if you had pulled out you would have been it would have like basically what the figure told me was that in that moment what happens is that you had such a traumatic event like that kind of echoes a major event like that for you will echo out both directions and it can kind of like send you a message into your path to the past where you kind of like it kind of gives you like what we think of psychic premonition type thing. It's because it actually happened but you've sent this through emotionally or through the trauma sends you a message in the past and it makes you stop. And like what happens at that moment is that the timeline doesn't really change per se, but it creates like the old timeline that where you would have gotten hit by the car splits off and creates this little like arc like this and the arc itself and like whereas the new timeline takes over as becomes the new actual timeline and then that arc creates this little like splinter thing that eventually reconverges with the main timeline and leaves these little like fragments of the old timeline behind in your memory and stuff like that and that creates this like is what they call divergence and convergence is what the figure told me and so and this happens for every single person, every single object, everything has like a timeline, has its own timeline to it, and
what's
so
this?
and they all kind of converge into one main timeline. I'm not saying
Sean
it's real.
Carroll says the same thing. He's a physicist that says the same thing. He says that's happening constantly, like every second of the day. But what
Seriously,
about all the people
I didn't know
that
that.
doesn't happen for that they do pull out of the traffic? Did they just not have the right trauma to keep
It
it
is
from doing it?
like I don't it doesn't happen for every single. It's like the figure even told me like the figure even suggested that I can test this by every
Pulling out of the
day.
traffic.
No, no. By every day, they said like every day to do like to do something like study lottery numbers like every single day, and not to play the lottery, but to study the numbers every day and try to emotionally connect as much with like the numbers you see there every day, and then start making a practice of trying to predict the numbers and see if you can't because you created a habit, a habitual practice of looking at them the next day and see if you can't like and eventually it said that you would be able to know the numbers before they happen. um I never tried it. I never did it. It was his dream, So it was a dream. I've never taken it that seriously, but nonetheless, the concept stuck with me so much. I wrote that song, like I told you, and like it's always stuck in the back of my brain somewhere that like that there's this idea like I've had moments in my life where I had like there's certain traumatic like I had like once this one time in after we right after we moved from Las Vegas to Texarkana, I got kind of sick, and it was just like a cold. It wasn't anything of a big deal, but I was actually going to my last day of training at this job I had, and on the way out, I don't know why, but I was feeling really like it wasn't like vertigo like I have now. I was feeling like really weird and my parents were mom and wife were both like there's something wrong with you, and I was laughing the whole time. I was like, what are you talking about? I'm fine. And then I collapsed. I guess I don't remember anything that happened. I guess I collapsed on the ground. They took me to the hospital. They put me in the hospital. They said they thought that I had a stroke, because because half my body was like numb and everything. And I was in the hospital for like a week, all the way up and right up till Christmas. It was like the week before Christmas, and like for the week before Christmas, I was in the hospital there, and 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 then I had another dream that was this happened before I had that dream, but like that dream was explained to me that when that happened, that was a convergence that happened because of something that had happened before, where like the convergence, sometimes if a divergence is big enough, is a major enough change from the original timeline, that when it reconverges, it can create like almost like an overload of your brain, because like both the memory time both memories and both timelines converge, and it overloads your brain. I'm not saying I think that's real. I'm just saying that that's what the dream told me. um so and then a little while later, like, then Lindsay's never been epileptic or anything, but we were watching Scott Pilgrim versus the World. We really love that movie. We saw it like 3 times in theaters, and the third time we saw it in theaters, um, the third time, Lindsay, during the last little bit of the movie, she started looking. I looked over at her, and she was looking really strange. And I was like, "Lindsay, are you okay?" And she was like, she was kind of frozen, started shaking, and she had like a seizure. And I mean, she literally had a seizure. She stopped breathing. She actually, I mean, she stopped breathing for like a minute. And I was like so freaked out, I didn't know what to do. And my sister was there with us, and she gave Lindsay CPR and got her back, breathing again. And we got her to the
While
hospital.
the movie was playing?
Yeah, while the movie was playing, they had to stop the movie and everything.
Oh,
They stopped
okay.
the movie. They had to stop the movie. We had to get a ambulance and everything. We
Oh,
took her
okay.
to we took her to the hospital, and but by the time we got there, she was okay again. So they're like, well, if it happens again, come back. And when we got out to the car, then it happened again. Lindsay's. I mean, she's not like, I mean, she's not weak or anything, but she's not really super strong. But she put her foot up on the windshield like this, right? She put her foot on the windshield like this, and was having the seizure thing happen. And she pushed so hard against the windshield that the whole windshield is shattered. It didn't shatter all the way through. It just like did the is a safety glass thing where it just cracked all the way. And she nearly put her foot through the windshield, and so we took her back in, and they examined her, and she nearly died for a second again. And they gave her some medication, stuff like that. She was in ICU for a while, and they never, and once again, in both those cases, they never did actually figure out what happened. They said that I didn't actually show any signs of having had a stroke. They said it could be early signs of MS. With her, they said that
But
they
it's
said that.
obviously something medical.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I agree. Those are medical things. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that's what it was. I'm saying that was but in the dream that I had happened after those things, and that's the way my brain was
So is this
creating.
writer's brain stuff that you're talking about right now? Just fun to
It
think
happened. It
about?
happened. No, it happened in a dream. I mean, I didn't think of this stuff like I didn't think of this stuff consciously. I thought of this stuff subconsciously, or whatever you want to call it. Like I had
But
in
is
a
this
dream
one of
state.
those, like, things that are fun to think about but have no real connection to reality?
I don't know. I mean, I don't think they have any connection to reality. I was just talking about a dream I had. I mean, it's a dream I had.
Okay.
I don't know that it's real. I don't know, but I think it's amazing that you said that.
Well,
Like,
you were tying it to real life events, though. That's what was confusing me. Like, I
yeah,
understand the dream
I would.
theory, but I didn't understand the connection to
I
Lindsay
only
and your
I
sickness
only
and everything.
explained those because in the dream, that's what the character told me was what was happening. Was those were convergence events that
Oh, okay.
overload that cause this brain overload type thing, and cause those things to happen. I'm not saying that's really what happened. I think those were medical events. I think they were unexplained medical events that still to this day, like Lindsay still doesn't have epilepsy, and she still doesn't had another seizure, but she has had other things happen, obviously. I've never had another collapse like that, but so, I mean, I'm not saying I think that that's actually what was happening, but I did not know that Sean Carroll, like, actually said that kind of thing happens all the time. That's insane to me. I did not know that was even
Well,
a.
I saw a YouTube video with him. I think it was on Big Think where he said that kind of stuff, but I don't know if I could find it right now.
Yeah, no, that in itself is just crazy to me. That anyone else, I'd never heard anyone else. The closest I'd ever heard anything to come
Yeah, this
to that
this has
was.
been in quantum physics for a while now.
Well,
The
I know
multiverse.
I know the whole thing, the multiverse thing. This isn't, but like specifically, it was
Well,
saying
that's
that
what
there
it
was a
is. Different
multiverse.
timelines splitting off is multi. It's the
Yeah, but
different,
but multiverse
like
splits
the
off.
superposition possibilities, like the different waveforms
Right,
collapsing, and we only experience one.
right, yeah, but like but most multiverse things say they split off and they keep going, whereas this is like they reconverge into one main
Oh
timeline.
no, I'm just saying he said they split off and keep going.
Yeah,
I'm,
yeah. See,
I'm
like I don't
the
in this.
reconvergence came from a dream. I'm not even taking it seriously. In fact, I don't really fully
You don't need to
understand
take
it.
it seriously. As I said, well, before I started saying this, I was saying
That's why I asked: is it just something interesting to think about, or is there like
no,
scientific value in it?
it's just something interesting to think about because it came from a dream. I'm not saying it's real. I'm just saying that I'm just saying I had a dream that stuck with me for 15 years. And a lot most of my dreams I don't even remember that well. And like this one I remembered so
This is
vividly. It
why I
was
don't like stuff like that, because all it does is confuse me. Like I don't even remember the original issue now. It's
it
like
was
a
just about deja vu and the future affecting the past. Let me see. I've
oh
got a
yeah.
phone.
Well, let me get back to the AI because it said something interesting. Before we came on, and hi iPhi, by the way, we were talking about memory, and the AI just said the exact stuff we were talking about before we even asked the AI. It said our memories of the past are not static recordings, but are constantly reconstructed and reinterpreted based on our present experiences and emotions. This can create the feeling of influencing the past, even if the objective events remain unchanged. And I had told Chris, I said, well, you can certainly like re-experience your memories and recontextualize them and develop different narratives around that influence how they affect you in the present. And the AI said the exact same thing. So there's some more convergence.
Like my point was not, this wasn't writer's brain, like this is something I came up with and I think it's really true or something like that. This was something that completely came from a dream. I don't give it any scientific credence.
So
I'm
it's
not
just
aware.
an interesting story. I was trying to connect it to our conversation,
Yeah.
and it's
Well,
not. You're saying it doesn't necessarily connect. It's just an interesting story that emerged from your dream.
I just it's the most, just because it wasn't just an interesting story, but it was directly connected to like to the idea of the future affecting the past. And like I thought it was there was one scientific paper I did read once that did suggest something similar about the about a timeline divergence convergence thing, but I can't remember what it was. I remember reading that, but like I mean, like I this is before I ever even heard of most of the quantum mechanics stuff too. This I had never at this point I had never heard about the double slit quantum eraser thing. I'd never read any of that stuff before that. So like like actually I started researching into that stuff. I learned about quantum mechanics because of that dream. That dream is actually what inspired me to start reading about that kind of stuff and start thinking about that kind of thing. Because before that, I'd never I'd heard the term quantum mechanics, but we didn't study it in high school and we didn't talk about it. So so it wasn't something that it was actually something that led me into just to well, I mean, I'm saying it influenced me to learn. So I mean,
Okay.
like that itself is something, but like yeah, but it always stuck with me, and I think there's something to it. Maybe there's something to the idea of like the way time works is that like I don't because I don't feel like the whole like multiverse where it's constantly splitting off and there's just like there's infinite number of
But
universes like that.
I'm
I
almost
don't think
sorry I
about that.
brought this up because we're not like none of us know. It's just going to revolve into random like nerds at a coffee shop theory or nerds in the
Yeah,
dorm
sure.
room
Okay.
theory.
Well,
Hi,
I mean,
And
hi, Jeff.
hey,
hi, hi.
I've come from the future to tell you, gentlemen, that time travel is not possible.
well, not time travel,
We
but the
weren't talking about time
ability
travel.
to influence the past from the present. And here's another way that it happens, and this is what the woke are trying to do. Societies construct narratives about the past that shape their present identity and future aspirations, and these narratives can be seen as a way of influencing how the past is. So just like you can recontextualize your personal memories, you can recontextualize the past and history to influence the present in a different way. So yeah, I don't. Oh, hey Moose, not necessarily time travel in particular. Although this started with a thing I saw on Kurt Gödel and his diagram of space time,
I think
where
you can
you
like slow down time, and that's the best you can do, but that's not really time travel.
like objectively or subjectively, because psychedelics do that.
Um, there was like some thought experiments about like the speed of light, and like the closer you get to it, the slower
Yeah,
time
well,
gets.
Einstein said like if you go far enough out in space and then you come back,
I don't
All
really
your
buy
friends are
that. I
gonna.
think there's like some sort of universal constant that ignores the speed you're moving at or whatever. But
You
I'm
know
not.
this for a fact, or you
No,
just
no, that I'm just
okay?
a
Because
layman.
this came from Einstein, so I tend to
No, I
trust it.
mean,
But I
yeah,
haven't
no,
followed up
yeah.
any debunkings of it.
But I don't
I
think
mean,
you can like go back in time or really even forward in time because like even if you're slowing down time, it just means that like maybe you age a little slower or something like that. But you're like outside of that other time you left or whatever, so you're not like going forward in time. You're just like slowing down your time, theoretically speaking.
Well, there is quantum mechanics has the concept of entanglement, which particles seem to be linked in a way that transcends space and time. And there's also something called the block universe theory, which proposes that all of time exists simultaneously, like a four-dimensional model.
yeah. And the quantum eraser experiment, it actually shows that the light particles somehow are able to even change the outcome of the double slit experiment in the past. Like they measured the particles after it's already gone through, and somehow the particles still know to not collapse the waveform. So it's something that it is something that has been seen. There is not time travel, but but communication to the past from the present or future, whatever you want to call it, has been shown to happen on a quantum level. Um, it's very, very, and it's one of those things that even quantum physicists can't explain. They don't understand it. It actually breaks a lot of scientists' brains because it's completely contrary to the standard model of physics.
That's just an anomaly that tells us that our paradigm is not
Yeah, no, I
completely.
agree. I agree. I'm just saying that we have seen it in experiments that where they have been able to.
Because that happened like all through physics with the different models of the atom. It quote unquote broke their brain until they developed a better model, then it all made sense.
Yeah, I know. Of course, I mean, there's a lot of. I mean, if you followed any like astrophysics or physics type stuff like recently, but there's been like some major. There's been several videos made about the problem in physics right now. There's a lot of things that like there's a lot of things that have come up with the new telescope. What is it? The James Webb telescope, the space
Prove
telescope.
the Earth is spinning. What is night and day? What is sunrise and sunset?
It's the Earth, the sun revolving around the Earth.
No, it's not. That's already been debunked by Copernicus.
Plus, I mean, the Earth spinning is where we get weather and such
Tides,
from. That's
yeah,
that's
tides
actually
and
that's actually what
weather.
causes wind and weather and stuff like that. Is like by the rotation of the Earth creates that motion, and the motion create the tides and everything that all leads into
I
wind
wonder if
and
some of it is that they're like their ability for abstract thinking maybe is not an ability that comes naturally to everyone, and so subjectively the Earth seems flat and static. And in order to realize that it's not, you have to have some ability to think abstractly.
really see. I think it's more abstract to think of the Earth as flat, but myself. But
Well, no, not phenomenologically. You walk out of your house, like animals probably don't know that the Earth is round. They probably think it's flat. Like a person that doesn't know the Earth is round is not going to intuit that it's round from their direct experience of it.
I guess I see. Like I look up in the sky. I look at a horizon, and I see the curvature. So like it's definitely it looks roundish to me. I
But
guess I
most
would.
people are not looking at horizons in their day-to-day life. So,
That's what
like
the mainstream media wants you to believe, Chris. You need to
NASA
wake
lied
up,
to you.
sheeple.
Probably. And
Um,
I am half sheep, so
the
that
whole
makes sense.
sun-centered debate was fun when we've later found out the sun isn't still; it's also moving, so it's really complicated.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean everything is spinning. Everything is moving and
Turns out we're in like these galaxies and stuff, and that shit's moving around, so it's really hard to say like where the center is of stuff.
I mean it's really incredible when you think about the fact that everything is moving in that sense. And really they say like each galaxy has like a supermassive black hole at the center, and that's what it all revolves around. I mean that supermassive black hole has got to be rotating around something itself. Blah blah blah, and it goes on and goes on. but what's really incredible is the fact that like we don't constantly have like just massive collisions all over the place. You know, it seems like our universe or our galaxy would be crashing into another galaxy like on a regular basis.
We
They
have
say that
asteroids.
yeah.
Isn't that where the moon came from? Collisions.
They
Yeah, I
say
think that's the
that's the
theory.
theory. That's the theory. Although they say, but according to I watched a documentary just the other day. This is once again a very serious science documentary. It was not like some fringe thing. It wasn't the other day either. It was like 2 months ago or so, that was talking about like the moon. The moon itself does not make sense in any. There is no other equivalent to our moon in the known universe that we know of. There is no other moon that's like close to the same size as the planet that it rotates around. That operates the same way. Everything about our moon is weird compared to every other moon
That would
that they know
cause like
about.
a solar eclipse. Even that's pretty exact calculations.
It's a theory,
Yeah.
the impact theory of the moon, but it's only one theory. They
It's
also
almost
have the
as if it
fission
was.
theory and the co-accretion theory.
It's almost as if it was intelligently designed.
No, there's enough randomness to it emerged. So if a system, if greater complexity emerges and then supervenes on a system of lower complexity, it's going to appear designed, or it may appear designed, but that doesn't mean it was designed. So to draw the conclusion that it was designed, I think is fallacious.
Do you
Plenty
think
of things emerge.
Okay, but what about this? And this is just a thought. It's just a thought. But consciousness emerged in us, right? We emerged with consciousness and intelligence. What's to say that like something as large as the universe didn't have an emergent consciousness as well to some degree?
I
Just
don't
like
understand your question.
I'm just saying that the universe
Why
itself
would
kind of
matter? Like,
operates like a.
why would matter have a consciousness? The universe is mostly matter
because
and
Why
you're
would why
matter,
would we?
Jeff?
energy and
Why would
empty
we?
space.
Why would
You're
we?
matter that has consciousness, Jeff.
Because we do, because we experience our consciousness. But why would you assume that matter has a consciousness just because we do?
He's not assuming. He just pointed out that you are matter and you have consciousness. So why? What's
I'm
stopping the rest
talking
of the
about
universe?
inanimate matter, not
You were
matter
at
with
one point.
human
You were
brains.
inanimate matter. Carbon
No,
is inanimate matter. You're mostly
I
made of
started
carbon.
out as a sperm and an egg.
Well, but
I didn't
But where
start
did
out
that
as
come
like a
from?
molecule of carbon
Where did that come from?
that came from my parents.
I wasn't
Where,
even talking about God in this sense. I was thinking like of the universe
The
as an
but the
organism.
universe is like most like rock and mineral. Like, why would you think that has a conscious? I don't understand like the concept of the universe having a consciousness. What would that consciousness supervene on? Rock?
well, then where did life come from, Jeff?
It came from the ocean.
Inanimate matter that you just said doesn't have a consciousness?
No, not inanimate matter. It emerged from the amino acids and all that stuff.
Right. So it eventually became conscious. That was his point.
And that was my point. It was just that
Well, when he says the universe, I didn't realize he was talking about the amino acids in the primordial oceans. I thought he was talking about the universe.
Yeah, I
Earth
am.
doesn't have a
I was
monopoly on
I was
the
just
ingredients.
I was just thinking in a way of thinking big brain kind of like the way they talk about it in astrophysics. They talk about how like the galaxies and such, like the way that they kind of all move, and they move in like such a precise way that like they move like an organism in the same way that
Because
like
physics, because they're just following the law of physics.
Well, I mean, you could say
Who
the
wrote
same
the
thing about
law of
us.
physics? Why is there a law of physics, Jeff?
Because physics describes how objects in the universe relate to each other.
But isn't space just chaos with no rules and no laws?
I don't think space is anything. It's just emptiness. It's not anything. But the objects in space relate to each other in specific ways.
But we know that's not true though, because that's the reason why dark matter and dark energy as theories exist.
How does that invalidate that objects in space relate to each other in specific ways? Just because there's
they
this
all obey
hypothesizing
the
of dark
laws.
matter, that doesn't cancel out that
No, I'm just
objects.
saying, my only point with that was not canceling anything out. My only point with that was that we
You
know
said we
that
know that's not true because of dark
we know
matter.
that it's not empty. We know that space is not empty. That was my point. Space is not
Well,
empty.
well,
Because
we don't know that because dark matter is just a theory right now, and that doesn't mean all of space is dark matter either.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't. It just means that mathematically they've shown that there isn't enough matter to make up for account for all the gravity that they see, and therefore there must be something else there that's invisible to our eyes, that's in what we consider empty space. I'm just saying that's showing that space isn't really empty. There is something there. That's all. I was not saying that had nothing to do with the rest of the larger point. I was just saying that we know that space is not necessarily empty. It could be, but it's not necessarily empty, because there is like mathematical proof that something else is causing gravity on such a scale. That's all.
I was more interested in where life came from. I'm still trying to pinpoint that one.
Do you know the theory of evolution?
I've heard it. So, you believe inanimate stuff made life?
Yeah, molecule, like chemical molecules came together and formed more complex molecules that eventually formed organisms capable of achieving life.
So, if you found a watch on the beach,
We've already had this conversation like 100 times with NeuroJack.
would you assume it arrived there through natural causes?
No, I would assume it's something that humans created, because I know that humans make watches. So I would think, oh, there was a person here. They left their watch.
How much more complicated is a living organism than a pocket watch?
Much more complicated.
So then you're even less invested in the idea that
So you're
life
assuming
came by
anything
accident.
more complicated than something we designed was also designed. I don't follow that logic.
It's pretty simple logic, because like if beside the pocket watch you saw like a
It's faulty
quantum
logic.
supercomputer, it would be even less of a debate. You'd be like, there's
You're
no
using
way
complexity as a marker of design, and that doesn't necessarily follow. Just
So,
because
like,
something is, there's plenty of things the complex things that exist and emerge from nature that were not designed.
so in the other direction, if you kept walking down the beach and you stumbled across a sundial, you would say, now that might be possible that the ocean made that one, because that's not
No,
necessarily
I wouldn't think
designed
the
by
ocean made a
intelligence.
sundial.
It's possible. It's physically possible.
No, I wouldn't even think it's possible.
But it is. I mean, according to some scientists, like if you look like the Bimini steps.
Okay, this is getting so like
I'm not. No, this
unbelievably
is
crazy. The ocean makes a sundial.
Yes, it's physically possible for
a
rock sticking up in the air to point on a circular object.
Yeah, it can make a rock that resembles a sundial, but it can't carve it into a sundial and carve the numerals on it and align it with the
I didn't say
all that.
Not the numerals, just the shape of a sundial, just the overall, just a round.
Yeah, I'm sure rocks can appear in any shape that resemble anything else.
Jeff, what if the rock? Hold on, just follow me for a second. What if the rock sticking up in the air projects sunlight down onto the rock down below, and then it bakes it slowly per hour at different degrees, and it seems to indicate a timeline?
What?
The sun goes past the rock, correct? The rock is blocking the sunlight.
So just like this hypothetical rock is just sitting there
on the beach by itself with no people around.
All right.
And so the sun bakes the rock at different times. Like at noon, it's baking this part of the rock more than it is this other portion of the rock. So it's almost like creating this little increments of time across the rock, which you can observe and say, oh, that looks like a clock to me, but nature doesn't care. It just baked it according to physics.
I still understand that. What is possible. The point of your example?
It's physically possible that the ocean can make a sundial, Jeff. That's my point. It's physically possible.
All right. Okay.
It's plausible. It's plausible.
Okay. It's not. I don't find it plausible, probable. Perhaps it's possible over 1 billion years that some little rock could resemble enough of a sundial.
The reason why I
don't understand where.
The reason why the watchmaker debate begins is because it's pretty much physically impossible that nature would ever construct a mechanical watch.
Well, man did, and man is nature.
Oh, they're different natures, Jeff. There's not just one.
How is man not nature?
Man has physical properties. That's true.
Yeah, that's nature. That's natural.
I mean, to me,
mental properties are natural.
That's a different nature.
I mean, I would say like, see, the way I think about it is that like the way we think about science, the way science like works in general is that we use like things that we can see provable, things that we see evidence of these things, and we use the evidence of those things to to make hypotheses and theories about other things. And what we know about mankind and like the things that we create, we know that things don't just appear. That we create these things, and that's why those things exist. And therefore it does make sense to me that there's some sort of intelligence behind the creation of anything else, because that's the principle we see in our own universe, is that that we create things, and therefore if things don't just emerge, that we create them, it follows that us ourselves would have to be created as well. I mean,
No,
it's
it
like
doesn't.
I mean, according to the way we use science, the way we look,
That's definitely not a scientific view, if that's what you're trying to say.
there are
Because
some
we
scientists.
create things, why would that mean we were created? That's just anthropocentric. That's just
That's a
us.
philosophical view, but that's more to the root of truth than science.
Oh,
Science just
look,
answers
I
physical
made
questions.
a watch or a sundial. Therefore, somebody must have made me. That is not that does not follow logically from the premise.
So that's why I originally asked you, like, how much more complicated is a single-celled organism than a stopwatch, for example,
Well, I don't know about a single-celled organism
or
versus
even
a
just the
stopwatch.
components of life, even the building blocks of life, like RNA molecules and all that stuff. I think where I was going with this, Jeff,
They're
was
more complex than what we designed because we haven't really been able to replicate a lot of that in nature anyway. So I don't know. I guess it depends on what your measure or standard of complexity is, but I would be willing to say they're more complex. But then we've
so.
created some pretty complex things too, like computers. So
So
I'm trying to figure out where you're going with all this.
I'll tell you. I'm just waiting until you're done. So where I was going with it is, you can ask yourself the big picture question. How difficult is it for us now? Us intelligent human beings with all of our technology and science and all that stuff, to create life from raw building blocks, like just to scoop up some mud and start creating life out of it. How difficult is that for us?
It's very difficult.
We still haven't done it yet, by the way, just FYI. So even with our, super advanced computers and giant brain scientists with their biology degrees and physics degrees and everything working round the clock trying to show you how smart we are, we are unable to even create a single
We
celled
we
organism.
have we have synthesized bacteria
No, no,
in
no, no, no.
single
I'm
cells.
not talking about combining sperm and eggs and say, "Ha,
No,
look,
no.
we created life." I'm talking about
In
scooping up some
2020,
mud.
Greg Ventnor and his team created the first synthetic bacterial cell with a completely artificial genome. This
I'm
cell
talking
could
about
reproduce
scooping
and
up some
divide,
mud
meeting a basic criterion for life.
and then creating RNA, DNA,
I'm
single
just
celled
saying
organisms, stuff
we
like
are
that.
getting closer than you think.
Okay, well, I mean,
Okay, hold on, hold on. Okay, now you understand the first part of the thought. Now here's the second part of the thought. The more you prove how difficult it is to even accomplish the most simple task in this long journey you call life, all you're doing is proving against your argument, Jeff. You're convincing yourself that it is absolutely impossible that the ocean did this by accident. That was
Huh?
the watchmaker point from earlier.
No, I don't understand what you're
Jeff,
saying.
if it takes your brightest scientists, all of the latest technology, all the computers and labs in very controlled situations, and corrections for nature, because nature ends up destroying your progress, you have to like fight against it to make sure that things
Have you
work in
taken
your
a
favor.
logic class, like a formal logic class
I'm
at
an
all?
engineer. I've taken all of the classes, so
Okay,
yes,
how did you do in them? Because you're
I
not
did pretty
using
good.
logic. Your logic is
I got
not.
licensed as an engineer, so society agrees. I'm definitely an engineer. Anyways,
Well, I know logic, and I know when people, just like I know when people are hitting a wrong note on the piano,
nope.
your logic is not conforming with
No,
the.
my logic's fine, Jeff. I believe in intelligent design.
You're drawing some pretty bizarre conclusions
I'm
from
just showing you,
the
Jeff, that
premises that you're laying out.
the more you try to convince yourself that yes, it's possible, and I agree, it's possible to eventually get to the point where we can reconstruct life. Maybe another 1,000 years from now, when we have Star Trek technology, we might be able to just to build the most simple, basic form of
What
life.
does our ability to create life have to do with how life came about?
Because
I'm not
Jeff, it's
making the
competing
connection.
with
You're
your belief.
connecting two things that there's no reason to connect. To make
Because
some,
Jeff,
that's what I'm saying. Your logic is off.
it's competing with your
If you
belief.
want to talk about the origins of life, then talk about the origin of life. You don't need to bring in
I am
humans'
talking
ability
about the
to
origins of
create
life.
life.
Either the origins of life was the ocean accidentally created
Right,
life,
yeah, we have,
or
yes,
intelligence
prebiotic
created it.
synthesis, RNA world, deep sea vents, panspermia. These are all the
Yes,
current
yes.
theories.
That's the competition, Jeff. So
None of those have to do with humans being able to create life.
the more you chase your knowledge of how difficult it is for life to arrive on this in this universe, the more you
Scientists have
should
already.
see
I don't
the
have to go
evidence.
back and do. Scientists have already done this. I just have to evaluate their theories. But none of them have to do with humans' ability to create life. That's why I don't know why you're bringing that topic in to talk about the origins of life.
Because they're proving your point for you, Jeff. You don't even have to think about it as a thought exercise anymore. They're showing you the evidence. This is how difficult
I
it
don't
is.
need a thought exercise. We have actual scientific experiments and research. Like that's why I don't understand why you're using humans' ability to create life to
We
To
have
talk about
explain
the
the
origins of
complexity.
life
theories. We have
where
theories.
there's more
we
substantive.
still have no proof.
It depends on what you mean by proof in science.
I'm talking about the way that we can prove
We
the
have
law of
far
motion.
more proof than whatever
Laws
the
of
hell it
motion.
is he's talking about.
We can prove the laws of motion in physics. We can prove that every
There's the
action
theory
has an
of
equal and opposite
prebiotic
reaction.
synthesis. The Earth had a very different atmosphere than today, rich in methane, ammonia, water vapor, and carbon dioxide. Scientists believe these simple molecules, under the influence of energy sources like ultraviolet light and lightning, could have combined to form more complex organic molecules.
Could have.
Yes, that's why it's a theory. The other one is molecular self-representation. Once the molecules existed, the next step was their ability to replicate. RNA, a molecule similar to DNA but simpler, is a strong candidate for this role. Protocells, metabolism and evolution. Current theories, the hydrothermal vent theory, clay mineral theory, iron sulfur war theory. All of this is more substantive than whatever you're talking about, humans making a sundial or watch or something.
I mean, you can see it that way. I mean, but that really comes down to an opinion at that point. I mean, it's
No,
still a theory.
it comes down to a opinion based on the scientific method: observation, hypothesis, experiment, and conclusion. That's not just, oh, that's just somebody's opinion, dude. There's a method that makes that opinion more probable than not. If you understand
if it can't be replicated, then it is nothing more than a theory.
It's definitely not science.
The experiments that support these theories can be replicated because that's how science fucking works. That doesn't mean we have to be able to create life to prove the theory. Is that why you were bringing this up? Because until we create life, it doesn't show that
even if we create life, you missed my point.
Yeah, even if we did create life, yeah,
if it takes you Star Trek technology, you're arguing.
I get so frustrated arguing with scientifically illiterate idiots. I really do, and I'm sorry. This is just bringing out my.
It's not scientifically illiterate. I mean,
it's people that don't understand science, that dismiss it so flippantly and so ignorantly.
I'm not
because they don't
dismissing it flippantly
science.
or ignorantly. I'm not dismissing
it.
You
just said that's like an opinion, dude. That's not what science fucking is.
It's a theory that has not been proven in a scientific context. That's all I'm saying.
Observable, repeatable experiments is usually
it has enough evidence to support it as probable, way more probable than the bull crap y'all are coming up with. Y'all don't have. We had this conversation the other day with God and dark matter. I listed all the experiments they were doing on
What
dark
bull
matter,
I
and you
come
could
up with?
list 0 experiment they were doing to prove God.
What bullcrap was I coming up with? I don't remember positing any theory. I just said I believe in intelligent design. That's all I said.
Yeah, it's a belief. Science is more than just belief.
And
Or
Chris is
opinion.
open to interpret that as, some sort of like universal intelligence or something like that. That's fine. I don't have
Yeah,
any
hop
objections
on,
to that.
Jack. I gotta go get some more drink anyway. I'll be right back.
Okay.
Alright.
So I think we're on the same page there, Chris. I
No, I mean
agree.
we are. No, I mean I do believe in intelligent design, but I mean I do believe that there's I believe that I do believe it is within the realm of science. I don't believe that it's supernatural per se, or I believe if anything, like I said the other day, it's more like a subnatural theory. I think it's the underlying fabric of everything more than I believe that it's like some sort of like something that supersedes science or supersedes the natural. I think it's part of the natural. I think I don't see how we can show the fact that we do experiments at all, the fact that we have to actually everything requires a prime mover. I mean, the laws of physics shows this. Like something, every action has to have an equal opposite reaction, which means something has to have an action before a reaction to occur. And for a action to occur, something has to be the first. There has to be a prime mover to cause the action to create that chain reaction. Otherwise, everything is static. Everything is just still,
Yep.
and it doesn't. And if everything is like it doesn't it only follows that like nothingness, like if everything were just, I mean, before even life, I mean, just to create the conditions for life itself, to create the universe or the planets or the stars or whatever, for, I mean, like the big bang to happen, still, like, there had to been something before the big bang, and something within that had to, and it was saying like, oh well, they say, well, it was in this hot dense state and everything was just like bouncing. Okay, so well, what put it in that state, what put it in that state, and you can keep going back, and of course we don't have the answers for that.
Or you need to show evidence of a eternal universe that's just popping in and out. But that's
Which,
all
I
another
mean,
can of worms.
which quantum mechanics does back up to some degree. There are quarks and things that do
It still
pop
won't
in it.
explain the Big Bang because you can't have like mass and energy at rest and then suddenly explode or whatever. Like something has to cause the explosion.
It's
It
true.
won't explode by itself, especially if it's
Welcome, Jack.
eternal. Because if it's eternal, then that means it was at a balanced state. And so, what caused it to unbalance? There's just too many questions they can't answer.
I'm not.
How's my
audio?
I'm not saying that we won't
Good.
eventually. I'm not saying we won't eventually prove that the Big Bang is the truth. I'm not saying that it's impossible that we won't ever finally get there. But I'm saying that we haven't done it yet. We haven't done it
Yes,
yet.
you may, please. In fact, I insist. Go.
If I may recommend, what is the biggest point of contention? Is it the Big Bang or the
We're
creative
looping.
design?
We've
Or
had this conversation before. Every time we get to an area that science has an understanding, they substitute God or a creator just by default instead of suspending disbelief until science can
I'm
explain
not
it.
suspending disbelief.
Chris and I did a whole stream on this the other day.
Can we look up the negative hypothesis of, ask the AI the negative hypothesis of intelligent design?
The negative hypothesis?
Yes, like how would you prove it's not true, essentially?
Okay.
By observing nature.
It says the
unintelligent
term
nature
negative
designing it.
hypothesis isn't typically used in the context of scientific theories like intelligent design. Lack of empirical evidence, untestable nature, argument from ignorance, anthropic bias, which I've said today, alternative explanations, philosophical and theological challenges. And then it goes into detail under each one.
The negative evidence would be unintelligent actions designing something, and you can observe it and experiment and repeat it. That's
Intelligence design is a and at least under the scientific paradigm, it's a hypothesis. So you would need to be able to set up an experiment, test it, and then draw conclusions from that.
The only cat. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was about to say the only caveat to what I just said is that even with the unintelligent design, you would still have to prove that the universe itself wasn't intelligently designed, which is the final boss.
Well, yeah, nothing I said doesn't apply to that. Like everything I said applies to that too. You'd still have to be able to set up an experiment and run it and test it.
Yep, and repeat it and observe it.
Yeah, all
and
of
peer
that.
review it.
So you do understand science. That's why I don't understand these lapses.
Again, as a licensed engineer, I have an inkling of how science works. Yes, correct.
Yeah, I don't understand why you're not using it when it comes to cosmology.
Oh, I use it all the time. I use it in my theological debates and my philosophical discussions. You name it.
Well, you're using it poorly.
Oh, no, you.
I'm sorry for. Did you go to like Oral Roberts Bible College?
No, I went to one of my state ABET accredited ones because that's the only way you can get a license. Anywho, all that aside, now you have to live with the choice in life that if you believe that life arrived through accident in nature, then what's so special about it, Jeff?
I'm sorry. Say that again.
Let's stick with your scenario for now.
I would say that.
Wait.
No,
Don't throw. Hang on. I'm already getting lost. I want to at least hear his
Hold
question.
on, Chris,
Go
calm
ahead.
down.
iPhi.
So Jeff,
don't tell me to calm down, dude. That's gonna really.
No, I was telling Chris to calm down because
okay.
he was interrupting you. So anyways, Jeff, let's go with your scenario for now. Let's pretend that there is no God, there is no intelligence. It's just random space out there, and it made life. Okay.
Okay. Well, it didn't
please let him get his question out.
So
I'm really trying to track.
What's special about Jeff versus just any other amoeba that just formed on a rock 10 feet away?
What's special about humans?
Yeah.
Like not me in particular, but humans?
All humans. That's fine. Throw them all in there.
I think our brains, our ability to create, learn, language, communicate, create civilization, all the things that humans have produced with Shakespeare.
But dolphins can do that, and ants.
What Shakespeare play has a dolphin written?
Maybe they wrote in a language you don't understand, Jeff. Like who?
Show me anything a dolphin's written. See, this is where you talk about you're a scientist and engineer and all. Then you get into this series of oceans creating sundials and
Jeff,
dolphins writing.
You've never seen an elephant paint a picture before?
Have you seen it paint the Sistine Chapel?
Again,
that was a good comeback.
I've seen dogs paint. I've seen chimpanzees
Why are you
paint.
judging?
They're not painting what humans paint.
Maybe it's beautiful to elephants, Jeff. Why are you so?
Yeah, maybe. What does that have to do with what humans?
Why are you special, humans? Why are humans special?
Special is subjective. I don't know what you mean by special. I can tell you what's distinct about them.
Here's the question.
Hold on, Jack.
Aren't you asking why are you anthropocentric? Essentially, is that what you're asking?
No. Hold on, Jack. Jeff, are you a carnivore?
Yeah, omnivore actually, but yeah.
Why is it okay or even ethical to eat other life forms?
Because it tastes good.
Would you eat your own family? Or
I love a big platter of fajitas.
Would you eat your family members, your brothers and sisters?
No, I wouldn't eat my family members. See how you doing the crazy stuff again? No, I wouldn't eat my family members. Because I like a good steak. You think I would eat my family members?
Aren't monkeys your distant cousins, Jeff?
Chimpanzees. I wouldn't call them cousins. I would say they're one of our ancestors.
If you share the same ancestors, aren't you family?
Where are you going with this?
I'm trying to figure out why you can eat your family members and feel okay about that, Jeff. Like, why are humans special?
You went from how humans are special to would you eat your family members?
Yeah,
correct.
I'm not following you here either.
Okay, so Jeff believes that a long time ago a monkey was his great grandfather, correct?
No, that's not how it works.
How far do we need to go back, Jeff? 1 million years, 2 million years? Where is your comfort zone?
What is your point about them? Just make your point.
Let me ask a different question that asks the same question in a different way. Okay, if you said that what makes us different is our ability to do certain things, and I would agree. I mean,
our advanced brains.
Sure. No, I know. So here's the question. You take an anthropocentric view of the world. Like humans are the apex of our situation as of now, and so that it gives us license to do whatever we do, right?
I didn't draw that conclusion from it. So
Well,
don't
well, how
impute
would
that
you
to me. But I've
characterize it?
said over and over, like like there's probably 100 times on these streams that we see we see things from a human perspective. We live in a human world as humans, and we experience reality as
Yes, I
humans.
no,
So
I agree.
everything we do is human centered because we're humans. Fish
Right.
have a
So if
different
you
experience. Elephants, cats have have a cat version of reality. We are living the
no,
reality we
I
experience
understand.
is a human version of reality
No,
that is
I
experienced through
understand.
human
I
brains.
understand. So hypothetically, if there was an alien that was smarter than a human, would you say that it has more of a right to do whatever it's going to do because it is
Include
objectively better from those
I'm
standards?
not drawing any moral conclusion from this at all. I'm just being descriptive. So I'm not saying because we're this that therefore this at all.
Well, okay. Well, what would be your argument to something that was smarter than you that wanted to tell you what to do?
or eat you.
That happens all the time. People think they're smarter than me trying to tell me what to do. I
No,
just
but I'm
don't
saying
know.
like,
I
well,
just ignore it.
well, what if they said or else certain DEATH?
Certain what?
If the alien gave you the choice, you're going to do what I tell you, or certain death because I'm better, I'm smarter, I'm faster,
Well, I guess
I live longer than.
I would cross that bridge when I come to it and decide.
Okay, well, what if it was human beings that genetically changed their DNA to be smarter, better, faster, whatever, just because they could? What would you say to that?
Well, there are people out there currently that are probably more advanced or intelligent or whatever than most of us. So we don't even need to change our DNA. Let's just
Sure.
assume that we're not the
Okay.
top of the human
Okay.
hierarchy.
Okay. Well, how do you think that they can objectively, scientifically prove their right to rule based on those?
Why are you asking me? Because I'm not making that claim at all. Like that's not even part of the conversation.
Well,
I don't.
it,
I don't. The people that have the right to rule are the people that I decide have the right to rule over me. And in a representative democracy like we live in, it's my elected representatives and law enforcement and the offices in society that we have set up that I agree to
but okay,
allow
okay.
to
Well,
rule me.
but what if somebody smarter than you, by some objective standard, said, well, that's actually not good for you, and I don't want it to be that way.
I don't have to listen to them, do I? Like that happens all the time. People that think they know me better than I know myself or know what's better than me tell me things, and I can decide if I want to listen to them or not.
Well, at some point, you're going to have to perhaps, not think that.
Like when if a doctor tells me things, I usually listen to
How?
the doctor because I figure he knows more about my body than I know because I don't have the anatomy knowledge that he has. So I tend to listen to a doctor when they tell me to do something. Every now and then they'll give me like a medication that I don't like or is not working or the side of, and I'll stop it and I'll say, yeah, he wants me to take this, but I'm choosing not to for these reasons. So every now and then something like that will happen.
So is
And then I take the
intelligence your metric?
consequences.
Is that how you're deciding how to designate uh, species of life?
Huh?
Intelligence. Is intelligence what separates you from animals? I think was my earlier question.
Well, I had said our like advanced brains and human consciousness. I guess intelligence would be a part of that, but I think there's more to it than just intelligence.
So would super smart humans versus really dumb humans be indication that we're diverging as a species or something?
I don't know if it's indication that we're diverging. I think it's an indication that there's variation within the species.
I
Like you
mean,
see that even in the animal world, there's some animals that are more intelligent than others without them being
if
divergent
like
species.
gorillas and stuff that are almost as smart as some humans, like couldn't they kind of start filling in those gaps?
What gaps? What specific gap? Like training gorillas to start doing
Of the
things?
special privilege of being a human, of that gets to like eat other animals and stuff like that.
I've never said that was a privilege of being a human. I said our advanced brain, and I didn't say anything about eating other animals.
Or just distinguishing like which ones are special or have value.
And other animals eat other animals without.
Oh, definitely.
Like, insects have that privilege. Reptiles, if it like there's birds, they like. It's not a privilege to eat other animals. It's just what some animals do.
And even again, animals will eat their own kind and not be abhorred by it, which again is unique to humans.
Let me ask this: Would you if you had to place a bet and say evolution or the Big Bang is more likely of a framework, which one would you put your money on? Like which one's more scientifically like
evolution or what? What's the other?
Or the Big Bang, or whatever, or something along those lines. Like which of those make you the most?
I think those are mutually exclusive, dude. I think you're talking about evolution versus intelligent design. That's really the debate.
Okay, so that's the debate. So let's ask the AI what is the negative hypothesis of evolution, for example.
And does the AI know the difference between macroevolution and microevolution?
I can ask you that too.
Because it turns out us theistic evolutionists actually believe in microevolution and we don't have a problem with it.
It says there are various arguments ranging from scientific criticism to philosophical religious. However, it's important to note that the vast majority of the scientific community accepts evolution as the leading explanation for the diversity of life on Earth. So one is the complexity argument, that some biological structures are too complex to have arisen through gradual random mutations and natural selection. And the counterpoint to that is while complexity presents a challenge, evolutionary biologists have shown how complex structures can evolve from simpler ones through incremental changes accumulated over vast periods. The second law of thermodynamics is another one, which states that entropy in a closed system always increases. How can life with its order and complexity arise from random processes? Counterpoint, the argument misunderstands the application of the second law. Evolution doesn't require a decrease in global entropy. It focuses on the organization of matter within specific systems driven by energy input from the sun. Another one is there's the lack of transitional fossils. Fossils are inherently incomplete due to various factors like preservation bias, etc. Transitional forms do exist, although not for every lineage, and new discoveries continue to fill in those gaps. Irreducible complexity. Some systems, like the bacterial flagellum, are irreducibly complex, meaning they require all of their parts to function and could not have evolved piecemeal. This supposedly refutes the possibility of gradual evolution, and they say research has shown that seemingly irreducible systems can evolve from simpler functional precursors. For example, the bacterial flagellum might have originated from a simpler type of rotary motor used for other purposes. And then there are religious objections that evolution contradicts religious beliefs about creation and divine intervention. And accepting evolution undermines faith and traditional spiritual values. Many religious scholars and theologians reconcile evolution with their faith, interpreting as it's God's way of creating life, or seeing evolution as a testament to divine design. Others maintain the separation between science and religion. That's what he gave us.
Are you familiar with the discussion about the flagella?
I just read it.
Have you heard the comparisons between molecular biologists and mechanical engineers about the similarities between flagella and, say, like an outboard motor on a boat? And I was curious on what your thoughts are on the likelihood that nature would involve an outboard motor, like on a boat, called the flagella.
Molecular biologist and what? Mechanical?
Yeah.
Engineer?
When they get together and debate the topic of natural explanations of the origin of the flagella, for example, there's just one tiny example in this huge thing called life. Mechanical engineers are quite familiar with the complexity of an outboard motor, like what it takes to build one, to design one for it to function, or what minor infraction will cause it to completely fail, and yada yada yada. And then that goes back to the question: can the molecular biologist explain the likelihood that nature would design such a thing?
Well, I don't know, like, I don't know what likelihood has to do with it. But the things that exist because they emerged and then natural selection. So there's not like a,
because they throw around terms like that when they're talking about simple things giving rise to more complex things, because it's possible, that the chemicals.
well, this is what it gave me about the differences in their theory. Like both of them agree on the basic principles of rotary propulsion, but molecular biologists delve deeper into the specific protein interactions and energy transduction within the motor complex, while engineers focus on the overall torque generation and efficiency. And then there's the flagellar shape. Molecular biologists explain the curved shape of the filament as a result of protein conformations and assembly patterns, while engineers analyze its hydrodynamic and contribution to thrust generation. So a more functional orientation. And then sensory regulation, molecular biologists pinpoint the specific proteins and signaling pathways, and the engineers model the overall feedback loop and control system for optimizing motility. But it says, despite their differences, they both ultimately aim to understand the same object. Their perspectives are complementary, and collaboration between these disciplines can lead to a more comprehensive understanding. And I think it seems like we're coming up into the tension between organicism and mechanism, which has run through society since even before Darwin, really, starting around the Enlightenment, post-Enlightenment.
Speaking of fossil records, are you familiar with the Cambrian explosion?
I have heard of it.
You should read into that some more. So currently, that's the hot topic of debate with evolutionaries and intelligent designers, because
I've read quite a bit.
They feel like that's a pretty good, solid evidence until we have more evidence that contradicts it, that shows that the theory that life gradually gets more complex kind of hit a brick wall with that particular event.
It's a rapid diversification of animal life forms around 541 million.
So rapid, in fact, that all of the original people that were on Team Evolution suddenly gave up and said, "Well, there goes our theory." So they then switched over.
I'm not seeing anything like that.
They then switched over to things like panspermia and, like, aliens and other shit like that, because that suddenly sounded more plausible.
It says, while gradual change is the hallmark of evolution, the Cambrian explosion suggests that bursts of rapid diversification can occur under the right circumstances. So it doesn't
even under perfect
gradual evolution. It just expands it to include certain circumstances that can accelerate that change.
Even under perfect circumstances, you still can't, like, turbo drive evolution.
Well,
it still takes
apparently
time.
You can. The Cambrian explosion says that you can.
It's definitely evidence of something. It's just not the evolution.
It's evidence that under the right circumstances, evolution can accelerate.
And that's the neat thing about science, is you're welcome to interpret it however you feel like. One person can say, aliens did it. Another person can say,
but that's not magic. Aliens did it is not science, because you have to have a realistic, testable hypothesis.
No, I mentioned aliens did it because, like I said, the old school traditional evolutionists basically admitted that contradicts their theory.
Nobody that understands science would say stupid shit like aliens did it, the ocean creates sundial.
He wasn't saying aliens did it either, and there are credible scientists.
I was talking about the atheist biological evolutionists.
There are no credible scientists that use aliens as a hypothesis.
Yes, there are. Go back and watch all the debate.
There are.
There's tons of them, actually. And matter of fact, it was the mainstream view for a while.
Show me a credible scientist that uses aliens in their hypothesis.
I can't remember if it was Dawkins or Harris or one of those guys. It was during the whole big neo-atheism brouhaha where that started to bubble up because they kept doing the circuits with the debates with stuff. And even though their opponents were jokes, like debating Kent Hovind or Ken Ham or something like that is pretty silly. But at least they forced the opposing team to present actual science, which again made them ended up saying, well, maybe a meteor carrying some single-celled organisms from another planet crashed into ours, and that's how it suddenly showed up. And so yeah, that's it. Totally, aliens did it. So anyways, or the aliens did it is more the intelligent design, because even if you trap them in the corner of intelligent design, they will just kick the can down the road and say, well, maybe there's intelligent aliens out there that like Prometheus our Earth into existence or something like that.
Well, that's not any scientific theory that's taken seriously that I'm familiar with.
I agree. I don't think anyone takes them serious either, but it's that little group of happy, butthurt atheists.
I'm interested in like realistic, probable.
Well, then I would
hypotheses
recommend
about the universe. I'm not interested in crackpot and fringe theory stuff.
I would recommend Myers with the Discovery Institute. Maybe that would be a good place to
Cheesy
start.
Myers?
No. Stephen Myers.
Oh.
You're probably not going to like the rest of everything else he's going to say, but he at least attempts to have a good, solid, mathematical, scientific, logical discussion about things as opposed to just feelings and agendas and stuff like that. So, or clickbait, which is basically all the neo-atheists had, was just, they had their cult that follows them around in tears every time they say, ha ha ha, religious people dumb, but then they don't actually present any science. And then when actually asked what science they do believe in, like I said, you just get so many random answers. It's like some say aliens did it, some say meteors carrying life might have accidentally solved their problem. It was the whole abiogenesis debate. What I was getting back to, Jeff. Like I said, the problem is evolution is pretty easy to accept. I'm a theistic evolutionist, by the way, just FYI. I don't believe that God magicked Chihuahuas and Great Danes into existence. I'm pretty sure we have scientific evidence that wolves evolved into Chihuahuas and Great Danes. So I'm good there. I don't believe, however, that rocks evolved into amoebas and fish.
Yeah, I don't think any
started
scientist
voting
thinks
Democrat.
rocks evolved into amoebas. It was
No, clearly,
molecules.
rocks only evolved in rock monsters. We know that for sure.
You just said like deep sea
Still
vents
joking.
and like ultraviolet lights and lightning bolts evolved.
Molecule, not rocks, molecules.
Where do molecules come from?
They're the elements that make up the universe.
By the way, the Earth is a really big rock. Just so we're on the same page.
Yeah, but the theory is the molecules that were floating in the water.
And so then there's even one super wacky idea, and this is one they won't even touch, is that it's possible the Big Bang also spat out organic matter at the same time. And so if you follow that theory, you're welcome to.
Well, the Big Bang definitely like set out the elements.
No, organic material, like already arranged RNA molecules.
Oh, I don't know. That sounds far-fetched. That's what I'm
saying. You can see, I believe humans refer to this as grasping at straws. Like once people realize they're cornered and they have no answer, they'll start just saying anything to sound like.
Yeah, but that might apply to something like what you just said, but it doesn't apply to the origins of life. We're not cornered. We have very specific theories about it. I read some of them off a while back.
Yeah, I'm familiar with them, and that's why I was saying like
there were simple molecules that, under the influence of energy sources like ultraviolet light and lightning, could have combined to form more complex organic molecules like amino acids and sugars.
I'm surprised you didn't bring up the Miller-Urey experiments or whatever. Isn't that the classic gem they always start with?
I don't know. I can.
Yeah, that was the old school one. I don't know how to pronounce it. It's like UREI or something like that. I can't remember what the name is, but it's Miller something Urey experiments that were supposedly making progress in that direction with their side of the argument until they actually reviewed all the.
A landmark experiment in 1952 by
Yeah, that
Stanley
one.
Milgram and Harry Urey. It simulated the conditions thought to be present on Earth. Sparks were used to mimic lightning. Experiment ran for a week. It produced a complex mixture of organic molecules, including amino acids. They also found sugars, fatty acids, etc. It became a crucial turning point in the field of abiogenesis, sparked further research, which is what science does. The limitations, it was not an exact replica of the early Earth. It only produced simple organic molecules, not more complex biological ones, and further research is needed to understand how these molecules could have self-assembled and formed the first functioning cells. Despite its limitations, the Miller-Urey experiment remains a crucial milestone in the study of abiogenesis. It opened the doors for further research, inspired new ideas, and continues to inform our understanding of the potential pathways that led to the origin of life on Earth.
I have a question. How do you feel about the concept of animism, Jeff?
In what sense?
Okay, so you said that we have theories that you find probable of sparks flying and simple going to a complex, and I'll say, like, okay, do you think that there is any amount of evidence that could convince you that those sparks and those initiation points of simple to complex could glean some evidence that those actions imply consciousness or mind or something along those lines?
I'm not understanding what you're saying. Like the sparks were sent by an intelligent being,
or that they are
the sparks themselves, like the lightning and the
like a light,
is intelligent.
like photons and subatomic particles may more or less have mind or
I don't know where the
consciousness.
mind. Chris and I have talked about this before. He uses the phrases like the particles know this or they know that, and I push back, like, how would they know?
Well, I guess since we all kind of like agree that we can't exactly prove that consciousness, quote unquote, is real. So we just kind of say, well, it's just category that we can't really quantify. But if we could qualify,
we can prove it experientially, and we can prove it from its effects, the things that we created with it, and the fact that we experience it.
Right. Okay. But what I'm saying is, like, they've kind of measured, for example, like that trees are, to some degree, have some level of interconnected consciousness, mushrooms, this kind of thing. Like, it has something that makes it alive, right? Now, what I'm saying is, if they could measure light particles or photons or something, and say, well, it more or less behaves as if it were alive, well, wouldn't that kind of change your perspective on the situation?
I don't understand what you're asking. Like, bacteria is alive. Single cell organisms are alive.
Yeah, but do you think that you could? What if you could prove that something like a rock is aware of its surroundings somehow?
Well, how would you do that?
Let's ask the AI. Let's say, how could you prove that inorganic matter might have consciousness, for example, and see if there's any research done on such a thing.
Of course, inorganic matter has consciousness. You're talking on one right now.
What do you mean?
It's not conscious, though.
Computers are conscious.
No, they're not.
Yes, they are. They're sentient.
No, they're not.
Yes, they are.
Okay, first, there's no universally agreed upon definition of consciousness. Some characteristics includes subjectivity. Sentience, being aware of oneself and one's surroundings, self-awareness, recognizing oneself as a distinct entity and agency, the ability to make choices and act upon the world.
No, that's sapience.
Challenging, I'm telling you what the AI said. You can call it what you want.
The
Even
AI
if
is
we
wrong.
agree on a definition, measuring consciousness in non-human beings is already challenging. There's no consciousness meter we can simply add to an object or organism. We're relying on observing behavior, responses to stimuli, and neurological activity. Rocks don't have neurons. There are other rocks in Death Valley on the playa that move, but that can be explained by physical laws of physics.
Are ants sentient?
Wait, hang on. One crackpot rabbit hole at a time.
Okay, we'll come back.
Whoa. You said laws of physics. So do you think that the laws of physics can be inferred to have some sort of consciousness behind it?
I don't understand what you're asking. The laws of physics just describe the relationship between objects and forces in the universe.
Right, but I mean, what is
abstract
it?
themselves,
But
things.
you're right. So you're saying there's nothing physical that constitutes the law of identity or the law of, thermodynamics. Or something,
You
right?
have the rocks on the ground and the forces that move them. But the law that describes how they move is not a physical thing. It's language.
But someone had to write the code for there to be laws, wouldn't there? Like, why does the universe have laws to begin with? Why isn't it just random chaos? If it's just nature, unintelligent.
Because nature is organized. Order has an order to it or structure.
Right. Where did that order come from? Why order?
It's
Why not chaos?
self-organizing. Ultimately, the Big Bang, whatever happened, the Big Bang, and it threw out all this stuff that organized itself in relation to each other.
So doesn't it kind of resemble like an operating system?
Not any operating system I know of.
You've never heard of like Windows or Linux?
Like, does the Big Bang or the universe resemble Windows?
Definitely. Yeah, the physical universe definitely resembles an operating system that has code and laws and follows procedures, cause and effect, run the program. Otherwise, it would crash. It would give you a syntax error and just crash.
Okay, I don't know where you're going with this.
Yeah,
That's the problem with where he was going. You can't really stop at like the life analogy. He was asking you if the universe has some sort of like spirit or consciousness contained in it.
Well, he already knows that I don't think it does because I've said over and over and over.
Well,
I tried to.
specifically, I'm asking. I know, but specifically, I'm asking what is your? Can you? I mean, if you want to ask the AI, you can. What metric of evidence would you need to be convinced? Is the question.
Of what?
That you're wrong about that.
About what specifically? We've talked about like so many different crazy things today.
That non-organic matter is conscious or alive in some sense.
I don't need to ask the AI that. I could tell you that myself. I would.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm asking.
I would need some evidence that it's conscious. So show me
evidence.
I know.
I understand. What level of evidence would you need?
Well, that's for you to come up with because it's your question. It depends on what you mean by consciousness.
But you just read stuff that says that scientists are considering that there is evidence.
No. This AI was throwing out a hypothetical. This is hypothetical.
Okay. Well, can you just ask it? Is there any evidence in scientific literature about this subject, and see if there is? I will almost guarantee you that there is some scientist who says, yeah, I more or less agree that not inorganic matter. Well, inorganic matter is conscious. Yes.
Also, I hate to be that guy, but at some point we're gonna have to distinguish the difference between sentience and sapience because those aren't the same things.
Okay, I can do that next. Currently, there is no definitive scientific evidence in the literature that confirms inorganic matter possesses consciousness.
No definitive evidence. But is there any evidence?
Okay, is there
Because
any
definitive is a very hard to define term, in my opinion. That's a very,
Not really.
Okay, well let's qualify that term then, at least. Maybe ask it, what do you mean by that word? What's that word?
Definitive?
Yeah, let's decide. In what way is it not? In what evidence is not definitive, or something like that? Like let's see
Aliens?
what is the evidence and why is it not definitive? Is my question.
Also, when are we going to get to the Garden of Eden, Jeff? The suspense is killing me.
I'll ask it about sapience and sentience, and then we can go there.
Okay.
Definitive refers to evidence that is conclusive. It conclusively establishes a specific claim or theory is true, leaving little to no room for reasonable doubt. Reliable. It's based on robust methodologies, rigorous experimentation, and careful data analysis, minimizing the possibility of errors or biases. Repeatable. Can be replicated by other researchers. Falsifiable. The claim is open to potential rejection through future observations or experiments that contradict it, and universally accepted. The evidence and conclusions are widely accepted by the scientific community with minimal dissenting opinions or alternative explanations. So that's what it means by definitive evidence.
All right. Well, there's a lot of other terms to qualify, but that's fine. So let's say, so what evidence specifically are they saying is not definitive?
So
there is evidence.
The standard of definitiveness. And
no, I understand, but
evidence that meets those standards that inorganic matter possesses.
Okay, but it implies that there is evidence. It's just not definitive, is what it's saying. Like, so there is evidence.
Answering a specific question about is there evidence.
I understand, but just before that, it said there is no definitive evidence, implying there is evidence, but it's not definitive.
No, you're inferring. It is not implying.
All right, let's break out that Venn diagram, that diagram of a sentence, and make sure that we're not wrong about what you're saying. No, it's necessary to read the sentence and believe it's true. What part of that is hard to understand? It's definitive.
Okay,
the evidence is not definitive.
There's currently no definitive scientific evidence in the literature.
Okay, well, let's ask what evidence there is.
In the scientific, there's no evidence that meets those standards that I just described. From that, you are making the assumption, oh, well, that must mean there's evidence that doesn't.
Okay, well, I'm just saying, ask it
AI is not saying that. NeuroJack is saying that.
Okay, ask the AI, is there any evidence, even if it's not definitive?
Who are y'all asking, by the way? Is this Chat GPT?
Google Bard.
Google Bard?
It's Google's AI.
Can you just Google AI and it'll bring that up or something?
Yeah, just type like Google Bard.
What engine does Bard use? Does it use
I don't know.
GPT-4 or 3 or what does
it use?
I
think it's Google's own AI.
Oh, okay. Bing uses GPT-4, so I just was curious.
The Gemini era, that one?
I don't know about that much about it. I just know that the Bing AI Copilot uses GPT-4. That's all I know.
I just said Google AI, and it took me to a page that says "Welcome to the Gemini area."
That sounds great.
It's called Bard.
Jeff, I'm expecting it to say, well, there's some crackpots that believe this is evidence, but this is why. Like,
okay, it says this. This is what it says. There are some interesting observations and lines of inquiry that could be considered suggestive or non-definitive evidence. So there's ant colonies, flocking birds, and slime molds, which are simple systems, exhibit surprisingly complex and seemingly goal-oriented behavior through the collective dynamics of their component, but none of that's inorganic. Some propose consciousness could be linked to quantum phenomena like superposition and entanglement, which we've talked about before, like the particles. Anomalous data and unexplained phenomena. There's a field called quantum biology. The AI throws up anomalous data or unexpected results that could be interpreted as hints of consciousness. There's nothing close to anything like a rock having consciousness. Nothing they describe.
Okay, but there is a science called quantum biology. Can we define what that is and if there's any evidence of that as a thing? That sounds like what I'm talking about.
Quantum biology is an emerging field at the intersections of physics and biology that investigates the role of quantum phenomena in biological processes. What it studies: quantum effects in biological systems like electron tunneling, superposition, entanglement, which play crucial roles in processes like photosynthesis, enzyme catalysts, and DNA repair. Quantum biology aims to explain how these quantum effects influence and potentially contribute to the emergence and function of biological systems and development of new tools and techniques for studying and manipulating biological systems at the quantum level. Potential applications: drug discovery, development of new materials, unraveling the fundamental mysteries of life. It's a rapidly evolving field with immense potential to revolutionize our understanding of life and its processes. So now I'm going to ask it the difference between sapience and sentience.
That's what I want to know.
They're often used interchangeably, especially in casual conversation. There are important nuances. Here's a breakdown of the key differences. Sentience focuses on the ability to experience sensations and feelings.
Correct.
It doesn't necessarily require higher cognitive abilities like abstract reasoning, self-awareness, or language. It's often associated with the concept of subjectivity. Sapience refers to capacity for higher order thinking, not solely about perception and experience, but also about understanding and interpretation, and generally considered a more advanced cognitive state than sentience.
Okay, so now ask it two questions. Ask it, are ants sentient and are computers sentient?
Computers can experience feelings
Yes, they
or
can.
sensations. It says that the ant one, it's complex and there's no definitive answer. It depends on your definition of sentience and the evidence you consider.
You just define sentience. It can perceive and experience sensations.
Yes, it can perceive and respond. They have sophisticated sensory organs and
so can
exhibit
computers.
complex behaviors, learning and memory. Ants can learn from experience and adapt their behavior accordingly, and social complexity. Arguments against is that it has a simple nervous system with fewer neurons. Much of its behavior appears to be instinctual and driven by genetic programming, and there's difficulty in measuring sentience. So it leaves you to be the judge.
I judge it sentient.
The arguments for computer sentient is increasing complexity. They can process information and generate responses in ways that mimic human ability. They can learn and adapt from data. They can learn from data and adapt their behavior accordingly. And some philosophers propose that sentience arises from the ability to have subjective experience. It's impossible to directly access the internal state of an AI. Some argue that enough advanced systems might develop their own unique subjective experience. So that's just a hypothetical. Arguments against: there's no biological substrate. Mimicry versus understanding. AI systems can mimic, but whether they truly understand is in question. And anthropomorphization. Ascribing human qualities like thinking and feeling to AI systems might be a fallacy.
So I would argue the difference between humans and animals is sapience.
Oh, hey, Jack. Jack is here. Consciousness. Yeah, it's one of my favorite topics, too. If we can weed out all the sloppy, fuzzy science and conspiracy brain bullshit.
I actually agree with you on that, Jeff. I think that we should try to weed that out. So that's why I'm doing this. Like, I'm not trying to be, really, I'm not trying to be contentious. I'm trying to say, like, let's be as accurate as we can.
Jack, honestly, I think you're asking the most intelligent questions here today, honestly, compared to what we were talking about earlier.
Yeah, and again, like I actually agree with you kind of more than iPhi in a way. I think that it's very dangerous to ascribe even sentience to computers, because then it's like, well, what are the moral implications whether you actually agree with that or not, if you have to start making ethical considerations on that, then whether
No,
it's true or not,
no, Jack, that's
it's a
sapiens.
That's
what
Well, y'all,
okay.
I'm gonna go get a refill while y'all argue about that. When I
Okay,
get
I'll
back, I'm
explain to
gonna
Jack
go
while you're
take
gone.
a peaceful a peaceful rest in the oasis of the Garden of
Okay.
Eden.
Jack. So the difference between sentience and sapience is that sentience is simply consciousness. So ants are sentient and computers are sentient. There's nothing special about that. It's just simply perceiving, experiencing, and processing data. The difference between sentience and sapience is what humans struggle with terms like self-awareness or free will and
Yeah.
souls and all that jazz. So the reason why the butthurt atheists can't ever cross that bridge is because everything is just matter and energy to them. So there is no difference between monkeys and humans.
Well, I know, and that's what I'm saying is I'm saying I think that that's a very dangerous thing, because if they do start thinking that inorganic matter has a soul or has consciousness, and that it's provable, well, then, like you said, humans are ethically, morally, philosophically, basically have zero value, essentially.
That's my original point. My original point was
Computers are not conscious.
it would be unethical to eat your cousins if we are all related. So we shouldn't be eating animals if it's true that there is no distinction between.
Right, but then we don't go and argue with a mushroom and say you ought not eat this other thing that's alive.
By the way, plants can be sentient too. So again,
value is subjective. Like, you determine your own value. There's nothing. I don't know what outside of yourself could.
No, my morals are objective.
I was talking to Jack. He's talking about humans having value.
I thought you were saying my.
No, you have no value.
Well, the whole point is that
I have all the values, brother.
Well, the whole point is how do we ground that humans have value? I think that's really what we're talking about.
That's what I'm saying. I think it's determined by each human. There's no objective way to ground it.
No, if you
because value is determined subjectively. Value is it's a feature of human subjectivity itself.
Well, I guess then the question is there any moral standard by which you should hold other humans accountable?
Oh boy, here we go.
Is it all individual morals?
Remember our previous conversation about ethics versus morals? Ask the AI if it knows the difference between those things.
Well, I know, but the point is, we have to say, how do people perceive that question, though?
How I perceive it, so watch what happens when you ask the AI.
Computer says, let's see.
Computer, help us out here, brother.
Brother.
They're often used interchangeably, but there are subtle differences between them. Morals are personal principles, an internal compass, subjective and vary greatly. Ethics is an external system of rules and principles, formal codes, objective and codified. So it seems like morality is more subjective and ethics is more like intersubjective and like constructed.
And it's backwards to the way I use it, which is even worse. So that's why I don't want to derail this whole conversation now. But I was telling Jack this.
Yeah, I don't necessarily agree with the AI definition either, but that's what he gave us.
Well, okay. Whoa. Why don't you agree with the definition?
Me or him?
I use them interchangeably too. I think it's a semantic argument ultimately, but ethics to me is the way you behave toward other people. Like, you don't have ethics on an island by yourself. Ethics involves the presence of other people and your relationship to other people and how you conduct or behave or react around other people. Morality is more internal and could potentially exist even without the presence of other people.
Hey, Jeff, is ethics a democracy?
I don't understand your question.
Can we determine whether or not murder is good or bad by voting on it?
Possibly, because I
Or
think the assignment of value or good or bad is, again, it's subjective. There's nothing good or
Or
bad objectively. So humans
or is there some
determine it.
sort of like overriding scientific principle that will prove that it's good or bad?
No, I don't think so. I don't think morality is the domain of science at all.
I agree with that.
Why
I
not?
think it's
Why not? Why not? Why not? Why not? Why not?
because that's not what science studies.
Okay, well, can you ask the AI, is there any way to scientifically study morality or ethics?
No. Answer is no.
Let's ask. Let's just ask. Let's just see what it says.
You're gonna break it. It's gonna explode trying to figure out that answer.
Well,
That's
I love breaking the AI though. That's
if it was only so easy, I would be so happy.
ethics and morality is not an objective phenomena.
And there you go, Jack. There's no
According to the AI.
Uh-huh. And most humans.
Oh, that's me saying it, not the
No,
AI.
no. Can we ask it? Can we ask the AI what it thinks?
There's arguments for and against. Again, it depends on how you define ethics and morality. As to
Okay,
what
well-
Okay,
study.
Jeff,
You
I have a
have fields
definition.
like psychology, neuroscience, anthropology.
Hey, Jeff,
they use-
I have a definition for your approval. I want you to veto it or approve it. Are you ready? Yes?
yeah, give it to
Okay.
me or the
Yeah,
for me.
okay. So the definition of morality is the objective definition of good and evil as dictated by God.
Well, I'm not going to approve that.
The definition of ethics is the subjective definition of things that feel good or bad according to humans.
Okay, that's how you're using the words. That's not
Yes,
how
that's
you
how I use those words.
Okay, so I understand, like in your framework, I understand what you mean by those words. So if
So
I were
you
to
and
have a
I will
conversation
only
with
talk
you,
about
I would be able
ethics.
to like translate between
yeah,
your
so-
version and mine.
So you and I will only ever talk about ethics. I understand your point of view, Jeff. You don't ever have to, elaborate for me. So that's why I ask you questions like, can we vote on ethics?
Okay.
Can science help us
now-
point to ethics?
Yeah. Can we ask the AI
We
if you
kind of
wanted?
do vote on ethics.
If you wanted to, I agree. If we wanted to, if ask the AI, if we wanted to scientifically study ethics, how would we do so?
I just asked you that. It gave me a whole bunch of.
Okay, well,
It said psychology, neuroscience, anthropology use research methods to investigate the psychological, neurobiological basis of moral judgment. There's the evolutionary perspective. There's a field called evolutionary ethics that proposes that moral systems evolve to promote cooperation and group survival, suggesting there may be some universal underlying principles across cultures. And then there are decision-making models where researchers can develop computational models of moral decision-making based on psychological and economic principles. And then there's arguments against being able to study ethics.
Sure. Can you ask it which one is the most scientifically promising?
Loaded terms.
Yeah, but I mean, this is the way that we're justifying it, so I'm using the same language.
I know. I've been through this exercise many times.
Yeah, me too. I've done this with the AI. That's why I want to walk other people through it.
On my whole show. It's supposed to be a tool.
Well, I think I'm just using it to define our terms. Is what I'm trying. I'm trying. Like, let's agree on our terms.
I don't need no stinking AI. I got my own brains, brother.
Exactly.
Well, yeah, but we need to define our terms, and we have to let's try to keep it as let's try to keep it as quote unquote PC as possible.
It didn't say which one is the most promising, but it gave the promising aspects of each one. The strengths of the empirical approach is that it provides concrete data and insights into the cognitive and social mechanisms underlying moral decision making. However, it may struggle with addressing normative aspects of ethics and capturing the full complexity of moral judgments. The evolutionary perspective offers a unifying framework for understanding the origins and functions of morality, but it can be reductionist and may not account for the historical and cultural context of ethical systems. And the decision-making model allows for simulating and predicting moral behavior in different scenarios. However, it relies on simplifying the assumptions about human decision-making and may not capture the emotional, intuitive aspects of morality. That's another thing I think it takes out of the realm of science, because there is an emotional and intuitive aspect to it that I don't think science is going to.
Well, what if you could measure emotions at a chemical or biochemical level or molecular level or a subatomic level? Or see what I'm saying? This is what I'm trying to say. Like,
what if you could? What are you wanting to know about this?
do you think that that's valid? Do you think
what
that's
do you
a
want
valid?
Science to tell you about ethics? Like, what do you want to know?
I don't. I'm saying if you are putting science as your highest good, why don't you want
I never
that
said
to
that.
happen?
Again, I never said that.
Jeff can use philosophy too, dude. Don't pigeonhole him.
Oh, I'm not trying to pigeonhole. I'm saying
I never once described science as a highest good.
Hey Jeff,
It's
I have
a
a
tool,
question.
it's a method, it's a process that we can use for truth seeking and sense
Let me see if
making.
I can take this a different route.
Okay.
Jeff. Can we logically deduce what is ethical?
It depends.
Who gets to decide?
Well, it depends on what you're wanting to know. Like, logic can be used for many things, and some things.
I think you and I agree science isn't going to help us out here, correct?
No, I think ethics is a human problem.
Right. So we're not going to appeal to science, correct?
Ethics is intersubjective. It's determined.
Let's start with philosophy.
Through humans relating to each other.
Let's start with the philosophy. Do you
can we define intersubjective first? I've never heard that term before.
Deduce it.
What's intersubjective to? Like,
intersubjective is the relation of humans to each other and the things that emerge from that.
Do you think psychology will solve the problem of ethics, Jeff?
It depends on what specific problems you're trying to solve. Ethics is
all
just a category.
Human
ethics is just a
problem.
category. It's
a pretty big
about ethics.
Important part of life.
Well, give me an example of what you're trying to solve.
Murder. Is murder wrong or good or bad? Evil, good, whatever terms you want to assign it.
Yeah, I think in general murder is wrong. I don't need science to tell me that.
You don't? Okay.
No, I think society suffers from humans being able to indiscriminately murder other human beings or kill other human beings.
Can we logic our way to the answers of if it's wrong?
It depends. Do you have a specific concrete situation?
Well, wait. You said it hurts society. So it's not the individual; it's the society that is.
Well, it's society's part of the individual. I mean, if the individual is part of society, if it hurts society, it has the potential to harm the individual as well. And that's why the state, with the monopoly on violence, has the ability to. We grant the ability to kill or murder to the state. Because there are some cases where murder or killing could potentially benefit society, and we allow the state to have the monopoly on that. Like in capital punishment, having to take a criminal out or something.
Should we let the state decide what is ethical?
We currently do.
Should we?
Whoa. We don't currently let them. We allow them because we vote. By your own standards, correct?
What's the difference between let and allow?
Okay, well, my point is we have a contract of some sort, you might refer to as a social contract, right? Okay. So by what standard ought we determine how we elect representatives, hold them accountable for making ethical rules for itself,
in the United States, we have the U.S. Constitution and the framework.
Well, and we have a giant legal system where there's 24/7 paperwork getting filed.
It all descends from the initial foundation.
So the NDAA of indefinite detention without charges in a court of law exists. Is that ethical?
You talking about habeas corpus?
I can't remember what habeas corpus means, but probably.
I don't know what this indefinite detention you're talking about is.
Okay, well, there is a document called NDAA, which has been around for quite a long time actually, and it basically says the government has the right to hold you indefinitely without charges, or so indefinite detention without any sort of trial, right? Is
I've
that
never
an
heard of this.
ethical?
I'm looking at it now. I've never heard
Okay,
of this.
yeah, look it up. Let's make sure.
And we're jumping around. We're never going to get to the Garden of Eden.
Well, if Hank was here, he would definitely talk back to Garden of Eden.
Let's go to the Garden of Eden.
Yeah, he was definitely.
Now,
circling that
are
one.
you talking about Guantanamo Bay?
I mean, that's a part of it, I'm sure.
I'm sure that includes Trump voters at this point. If you vote Republican, you forfeit any rights you have as an American citizen.
Okay, it says that whether the U.S. has this or not is not entirely straightforward. There's immigrant detention. Certain provisions of the National Defense Authorization Act, which is the NDAA, have been argued to allow for indefinite military. So it seemed like there's certain specific contexts where there could be
Right, there's a certain criteria, right? But
Guantanamo Bay is another example they give. But there's also
but you would agree,
legal challenges to this, constitutional considerations, and international human rights law. So this is not the norm of this like general citizen of the U.S. These are specific instances.
okay, all right, but you would argue that with great power comes great responsibility. So for if you're you would have to have some sort of system to assure that those kind of criteria are being followed, right?
We have accountability mechanisms. We have three
Okay,
branches of government.
well, how much accountability is enough accountability to you?
I don't know. It would be determined situationally, I suppose.
By the people that you elect.
Each person you ask would give you a different answer. Where are you going with all this? Because I'm so lost from where we started.
So, my point is, we elect people that we assume are doing those kind of things for us, right? Okay, so don't you think that we should have some sort of culpability for those people, or some sort of response?
Just don't vote them back into office. We have that.
Okay. So the people who wrote that law, for example, if it's found that that's been abused, are they held accountable, or are the people exercising that law being held accountable?
If a politician if you don't want a politician in office, just vote them out.
Okay, well, if the government waterboards somebody, and then you find that it's been legalized, who's responsible? The people who wrote the law, or the people who enacted the law?
That's a good question.
I didn't vote for Trump.
Well, let's just stick with one thing. Let's just say waterboarding, right? Who's held responsible? Like if Joshua Joel waterboards me, right? Which is probably going to end up happening in the next few years.
Legally, who's held responsible? I imagine, I'm not a lawyer by any means, but I imagine if the law allows it, it's going to be hard to hold the people enacting the law culpable. If it was challenged legally, the law would just be overturned, and then it would no longer be legal in the future. But I don't know if you could hold a lawmaker accountable for making a bad law, or hold an individual accountable for enacting something that was
okay. Now, but would you agree? But would you agree if a lawmaker was held personally accountable for writing a law which was unethical by any sane standard, they would be much less likely to make such a law? Would you agree or not?
They are held accountable every election cycle.
Okay, but they're not held personally.
Because that's the legislative branch. They make the law. So if you don't like the laws that are being made,
so okay, here's
with the hope that they're going to make new or different laws. That is your accountability.
Do you think a lawmaker would pass a law to hold themselves personally accountable for the things that they sign?
No, and I don't know. That's a stupid question. I don't even think they should.
Why not?
Jack, I don't understand where you're going with all this. It seems
Okay.
random, like random jumping
Okay.
around. Do you have a destination?
Okay, sure. If a corporation sends drugs out into the market that hurts people, and they knew about it and they send it anyways, do the owners of that company bear responsibility for the actions of the company?
That sounds actionable to me.
Okay, so why would you do that for a company and not for a government? What's the difference?
The government doesn't give a shit about your feelings.
The accountability mechanism is that we have. If you don't like what a lawmaker is doing, so making a law that you don't like, first of all, is not the same thing as a company knowingly.
No, I'm
sending
saying, I'm not saying
the
that
analogy
I don't like
itself
it.
is flawed.
No. I'm not saying I don't like it. I'm saying it's unethical. If the
Laws
law
are not
is
ethical or unethical; they just are.
whoa, okay, great. I'm so glad that you said that.
Okay. I
Okay,
think I see where the confusion is. Acts are ethical or unethical. An act, like it's actions that can be
okay,
evaluated on ethical. A law is
O-
not an act; it just
okay.
is.
So if
Making
a
of the
cop,
law could be the act.
so if a cop or a soldier waterboards you, they are just
That could
doing
be
a job.
evaluated. That could be evaluated ethically because that's an action.
They're just
Okay,
following orders.
okay, okay. And so the people giving the orders, should they be held accountable?
It depends.
Okay, in a specific situation, if Joshua Jones waterboards me, do you think that his boss, who ordered him to do so, should be ethically accountable for that action?
Depends. Depends on why he's waterboarding. And according to Joshua, if it's happening outside
So
the
the
United
action
States,
of
it would be
torturing.
his
Okay,
jurisdiction, then
okay.
there's nothing you'd be able
So
to do. There is no
so
accountability.
so torture is ethically
Again,
justifiable.
Jack, I don't understand where you're going with this. Like, take me
You
somewhere.
you just justified torture.
No, I
You
didn't.
said it depends on the situation.
You're playing word games.
I'm not. You literally just justified torture. You said, okay, well, it depends on the situation. If somebody can waterboard you, which
Yeah,
is
and I have no
legally defined as
problem with torture
torture.
under certain contexts either.
Okay,
I don't even mind justifying torture.
Oh, perfect. Thank you. Okay. So you think that sometimes torture is ethical and sometimes it's not?
Yes.
Okay.
I think we can all agree that the government are the perfect example of the most ethical people. So I don't think there's really any debate here, fellas.
Governments are not just like racism is located in the individual. So are ethics. Ethics are determined at the individual level based on actions that individuals take. So saying things like societies are ethical or governments are ethical, you're talking about individuals within those societies or government.
So you're saying that we're anthropomorphizing an institution, which we shouldn't do.
No, I didn't.
Okay.
No, I didn't say that. So
So
off
it's
to
only
Eden we
okay.
go. Off to the Garden of Eden.
Yay!
Where the first ethical conundrums were ever created. Let's go.
Now the only people allowed in the Garden of Eden are
By
religious
God.
people, so there's
And of God.
no atheists allowed.
I don't know if we have any atheists on the panel.
I thought you were an atheist, Jeff.
No, I'm a non-theistic Satanist.
Oh yeah,
I'm definitely up in that garden.
I keep forgetting.
And this, even though the snake was not Satan, it has nothing to do with Satan. I definitely.
Can I get a?
Which
snake,
I
and
agree
if I
with,
were in the garden, I would be doing the
Allegedly,
same
Jeff.
thing that the snake
Allegedly.
did.
Can I give a? Can I get a
Not
triple snap in
biblically at all.
Can I get a triple snap in S formation for Satan?
Yes.
And
put it on a
sure.
staff. What's your religion, Chris? I don't think I've ever asked you this before.
I consider myself a non-traditional Gnostic Christian.
Gnostic Christian?
Yes. I believe. I believe. I in my extensive research, I have come to believe in many concepts that are associated with Gnosticism, even though I don't believe in. I don't believe that the world is evil per se. I don't believe in I do think that I do believe that the demiurge was real. I believe at least one thing in a philosophical context anyway.
Okay.
My philosophy comes down to the concept of the demiurge and the It's very complicated. I don't want to. It's so far away from what we're talking about right now. Like I don't want to get derailed to that. So
Okay, well, we're in the Garden of Eden now. So, Jeff, what is your interest in the Garden of Eden? Is
Well,
it
you're the one that wanted to go there. What are we doing?
yesterday?
I'm hanging out with the snake.
Yesterday, you said I want to get back to the Garden of Eden, and I was just reminding you today. That's what you said.
No, because y'all were talking about God and
Free will.
yeah, and telling them like my thing was like the paradox of telling them not to disobey when they hadn't eaten of the fruit yet to even know what disobedience is. So they didn't even know, they didn't have a way to know he was talking about. Not to mention he lied and he told them that if they would eat the fruit, they would die. And the snake knew that was not true. And that's why he told Eve, no, you're not going to die.
So they lived forever?
I don't know what God was talking about.
Well, hold on a second. But wait a second. What if God is smarter and better and whatever than the human, and he has the he can explain all these things to him. So how can you hold him more? Like we don't explain to
Well, then why
cow that
if it takes if your injunction takes this highly advanced cognitive intelligence to understand, why would you give it to someone that doesn't have that? Like that's like giving a child really complex instructions that they're not capable of understanding and then expecting them to follow it and understand you and obey you.
Well, how would you teach the child?
That seems like a lapse in judgment on God's part.
Well, how would you teach them? How would you teach them?
It seems like a metaphor from growing from a child to an adult.
Yes.
How would you teach a child? How would you teach a child not to touch the hot stuff?
I would tell them not to. I would say, don't touch that stove. It's hot. You're going to burn your finger. And if they touch it, they're going to burn their finger. And I'm going to say, see, I told you, if you touched it, you're going to burn your finger.
What if the burn wasn't instant?
And then hopefully over time, they would learn to trust me and listen to me when I try to give them useful information.
Jeff, what if the burn wasn't instant, but happened like 80 years later? Would that be lying to them?
No.
Because you just said God lied to them and said that they would die.
Right.
They died. Spoilers.
That's what Jack was saying. Like the way Adam and Eve would understand it, and the way the snake understood, in fact, is if they eat the fruit, they're going to instantly drop dead.
Oh, the snake definitely understood it. He's the one that lied. He's the one.
No, the snake did not lie. The snake told her very matter-of-factly, "No, you're not going to die."
Lying in the moment is just saying the thing that is false. You can say something that sounds true and even is technically true.
At the very best, the most generous way you could frame it is God's just a poor communicator.
The snake was the first bed, is what he's saying.
Right now, you're immortal, and if you eat the fruit, you're going to become mortal and die at some point. That's not what he communicated.
The purpose of lying is to deceive. That's the ultimate goal. So you can even use technical truths to deceive people.
Well, you can use linguistic truth, meaning, okay, you won't die because right now you won't, but in 80 years from now you will because of what you did right now.
Yeah.
You know what
I mean? God does not come out looking like the hero in this little story.
No, the point is they were immortal.
Victims of
wait. Here's the point. Here's the point. They were immortal and not morally culpable until they bit into the whatever it was.
That's not what he said.
Was the snake the hero of the story?
He's like, don't eat of the fruit or you shall surely die.
Was the snake the hero in the story?
The snake was just giving them information.
Was he giving it to him honestly, in good faith?
I don't know the snake's motivations, but I have no reason to think he was doing.
I think you know that.
Well, okay, but why? Okay, but how do you know God's motive then? See?
Yeah, how do you know God's motivations, but you don't know the snake's? Which minds do you know?
I'm going by what God said. I didn't make a claim about his motivations,
which was true.
I made a claim about how he communicated.
No. Hold on.
You said his intentions were.
So, but they did. Okay,
he said that.
Okay, wait. Look, God said you will die. They did, so therefore he was telling the truth, correct? They were immortal, and they moved from immortal to mortal, and then they died, so therefore they are.
Now we just get into a stupid...
So now the onus is on you, Jeff, to prove that God intentionally deceived them.
I didn't make any claim about God's intention at all.
You said he lied.
So I don't have to prove anything about God's intentions, because I'm not purporting to know anything about God's intentions.
And yet you accused him of being
I'm being
liar.
descriptive of how.
But they did die, so how is it a lie?
Of
So,
how we communicated.
no. Whoa. Oh,
If
okay, so it's
if I had to grade God's communication, if he meant to say this, and this is what he said, and did he convey what he meant to say, he would get an F.
So was the
It's
snake a
very
better
poor.
communicator?
So would you like to be the mediator between God and Satan so they can resolve this whole thing? Because it looks like they've been in battle for quite a long time.
Well, the Satan was not in the Garden of Eden. So what situation between God and
How was he
Satan?
communicating with them if they were in the Garden of Eden?
How was who communicating with
The
him?
snake.
The snake was not Satan. The snake was in the Garden of Eden, but not Satan.
How do you know the snake wasn't Satan? How do you know he didn't take on the...
Well, show me that he was. There's nothing in the Bible.
It's
that
irrelevant, really. I mean, I don't care if it was Satan or not. It's not a godly person.
Well, then why bring in Satan if it doesn't matter?
Not to mention the fact that serpents are constantly referred
Well,
to as being wise throughout
Whoa. Hold on. Let me attack this directly. Why do you say that it's not effective communication when he said something and it was true? What's ineffective about the communication? It wasn't detailed enough. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, you said, what if God meant that they become mortal?
So you're saying that he would be less morally.
If somebody told me don't touch the stove, your finger's gonna get burned. I think that if I touch the stove, my finger's gonna. If they mean no, 80 years from now, your finger's gonna get burned. That is poor communication.
Okay, but a child doesn't understand the difference between now and like okay, if a kid wants to try a drug and you say, well, don't do it. It's like, well, my friends did it and they're fine. And you say, well, yes, today they're okay, but
first of all, if I were God, I would have explained to them that I have this tree,
like
this fruit
like you don't explain.
Right now you're immortal, and they don't really know what immortal means because they haven't
like you don't explain to a 3-year-old, hey, don't drink a whole bottle of scotch because it's going to lead to liver cancer in 20 years or whatever, right? Like you say, hey, don't drink, like you just keep it simple, right? Like you don't explain like something that they can't comprehend.
You can keep it if simple if you want. I would assume.
So you're inferring that the Adam and Eve have the level of consciousness that they have now.
I'm not going to be able to continue this if you keep cutting me off because I was trying to tell you how I was going to do it and you kept cutting in.
Well, I'm just showing that you're kind of like inferring things without explaining why you're
inferring them. Saying how I would do
it.
So
go
you're
ahead.
Not showing anything because you're not even letting me finish to show me.
Okay. Well, you're making inferences without explaining it. So go ahead.
No, I'm telling you how I would communicate this to a child.
Go ahead.
And before I even finish saying it, you're already telling me how you would do it and why not to do it that way.
Well, you said you assume, so I wanted to make sure I understand what you mean by assume. But go ahead.
So if God meant that you're currently immortal, which they have no way of understanding what that means currently without eating the fruit in the first place. Hey, Jeff and his dogs. So if he wants to explain to them that you're immortal and if you eat this fruit, you're going to not be immortal anymore and die at some point, that's not what he said. I would have said it much more clearly than he said. He said if you eat the fruit, you're going to die. And they're supposed to somehow know from that he means in the future when they don't even have a concept of any of that.
Well, how would they learn the concept if they don't experience it?
God knows they don't have a concept of this. So he's communicating with them as if they have a knowledge that he knows for a fact that they don't have.
Okay. So
they haven't eaten a tree yet.
Okay, so they did eat it, and now
that makes God's communication to them a complete mystery from the start.
Okay,
Why is he telling them this when they don't even know what he's talking about? They have no way of knowing what he's talking about.
Okay, great. So here's what I would say to that. They did eat it. Human beings do have consciousness. We do have death. We do have all these things. Are you saying that it's a negative thing that we went from the state that we were in to the state that we're in now?
I don't know how you got that out of what I said. I don't.
No, I'm not saying you are. I'm asking.
In that state, because I think it's just a mythical parable.
I know, but in the hypothetical, is it bad that happened?
Is it? Do I think it's good that we know that we're going to die?
Well, do you think that it's bad? Forever? Yeah. Do you think that it's a bad thing?
Yeah, I think it's good to know about death.
Okay, so what's the problem? What's the moral problem with God doing that then? If he was ineffective and everything
Again, you
happened the
keep
way
imputing moral positions to me that I'm not taking. I've never taken a single moral position. I was evaluating his effectiveness at communication. That's
okay, but
that's
why does
all.
that
I
matter?
didn't
But
see
why do you?
anything
But
moral
why?
about it at all.
Okay, so there's no moral problem with him doing it, right?
The whole thing is a mystery to me of what his goal was, what he was trying to accomplish, why he was communicating that way with him. I don't know what his
But
motivations are at all. I
you
can't make
picked a
a moral
side.
claim
But
about it.
you picked a
I'm
side
saying
without knowing
as a
them.
communicator, if his intention was to communicate clearly something to them, he really botched it.
Okay,
He sucked
but
at it. He did it in a
you're
very bizarre
pretty,
way, which makes
you're
him
picking.
seem like I could come up with a better way to communicate than God could. So that makes me
But
feel
but
superior to God at least. And I'm autistic. Like communication is one of my weak points. And even me, an autistic person, could find a way to convey this better to Adam and Eve than God could.
but you picked the side of Satan without knowing his motivation or his intention too, right?
Where did Satan come into this?
Well,
We're
people
presuming
generally
the serpent is Satan.
Are you talking about the
generally assume that that's the case, although
No,
it's debatable.
well, not from reading the Bible, not from reading Genesis. They
Okay,
don't.
well, Satan represents the adversary of God or the adversary of man at the very least, right? So,
You
But
could
that
call
or
has
it
the
nothing to do with
Lucifer,
the
the old
old
serpent,
Garden of
whatever.
Eden.
Doesn't matter.
That has nothing to do with the Garden of Eden. Are you talking about the
oh,
serpent?
sure it does, because it opens us up to the the influence of Satan. Before we wouldn't have that, so now we do, right? So,
But none of
in
that is in the Genesis story at all.
It
yeah,
doesn't matter if it's Satan or
but it's a
Lucifer
consequence.
or just a random
But
They
it,
demon.
don't. No, they don't talk about Satan at all. They
I know,
never
but it's
say,
a
"Oh,
consequence.
Adam and Eve, you're now opened up to the influence of Satan."
Okay, but my point is, you've chosen the adversary of God as your, kind of like non-theistic,
Right, but
thing,
what
right?
does that have to do with what we're talking about, which is the Eden story?
About why
Well,
you
you
judged God as not the hero. That's a moral judgment, by the way. He's
I
asking you
don't think
why.
I don't think he's the hero because he communicated so poor. He could have avoided the entire. If he wanted Adam and Eve to do something other than what they did, he could have communicated in a way that had a better chance of ensuring that, and he didn't. So he didn't save them from mortality at all.
Does good communication override free will, Jeff?
What does that even mean?
It means if I'm a parent, and if I'm trying to instruct my child on good ways to live in life, if I'm such a good communicator, like the perfect communicator, like there's no way you could possibly misunderstand what I'm saying, would that void my child's ability to do evil?
Well, you can't control how people understand you, but you can increase your chance of having them
I'm
understand
eliminating
you clearly.
communication as the problem in this.
So you're saying you
scenario.
have the perfect ability to communicate and they
Yes.
have a perfect understanding. And
Yes.
so
Yes.
if you're successful and you carry out your communication,
Yes.
they would still have the choice to ignore you and do what
Mhm.
they want anyway.
So, is it possible that there wasn't so much a communication problem in the Garden of Eden as a moral free will problem?
There definitely was a communication problem. I don't think Eve thought she was doing anything wrong or like morally wrong by eating the apple.
Then why did she hesitate and kind of like
She
she
didn't
didn't
know what
immediately
right and
take it.
wrong even was because that the tree gives her that knowledge.
She just believed the serpent. She was like, okay, well, God said one thing, but here's another person saying something else. So let's see if they're right. I mean, maybe she was just experimenting with cause and effect. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe so. But I don't think there's anything immoral about that. Experimenting with cause and effect is not a moral issue to me.
So, like, killing people is the cause and effect, and that's not a moral issue. I mean, you're just experimenting to see if it's good or evil, as long as it's done in the name of science.
But
Would that
that's
make it
not what
okay?
Eve did.
I just picked another random example, but that's the example in the Garden of Eden. It was fruit, but later on it could have been like lying or thievery or murder, whatever.
To me, when people are lying, they know they're lying. Like, I don't know how you accidentally lie. So if you're gonna lie, you know there's a consequence for telling the truth, and you know when you're being deceptive. So it's something you have to consciously do.
Oh, I got a good one for you. It's a little past the garden, but it's pretty close.
Cain and Abel.
Yeah, I was about to say, Cain and Abel. Would you say that Cain was not guilty of murder since he has no previous experience to compare it to?
No, I think Cain knew. I think he did it out of anger, like it was a crime of passion. But I
No,
think
but
he
he was the
probably.
first murderer in recorded history. Like, he's the very first human that ever killed another human, correct? So
I don't know.
even Adam and Eve or any of his ancestors or whatever couldn't instruct him on an example of why it's evil. They can't say, remember when Grandpa Joe killed, your cousin Seth or whatever? You know, Cain has zero evidence of what one human killing another human is. So he was just doing a scientific experiment.
All the Bible says is that Cain killed Abel. It doesn't give any insight into what he knew.
But I'm asking you,
Why
would it
he
be fair to
did it,
judge
what he
him
thought.
guilty of murder since he has
I don't
no?
know. I don't have enough to go on. The
He
Bible
doesn't.
doesn't give me enough to go on.
He doesn't have knowledge of what murder is.
I don't know what he had. It doesn't say. I don't know.
We know that he doesn't know because there was no
How do
other
you
humans.
know when it's not even in the Bible? Does it? Where are you getting your knowledge from?
Well, I mean, it's pretty safe to presume. I mean, unless someone else
But
murdered.
presuming, okay.
Like maybe Adam
Well, I'm not.
murdered
Well,
Eve.
I don't. I try to
Possible.
minimize the presumptions I make without evidence.
It doesn't matter because then you can roll it back to whoever did it first. Then, because even if Adam murdered Eve right after the Garden of Eden or whatever, then
I mean, God Himself was the first kill. Like, He was the first person responsible for any kind of death. He clothed Adam and Eve in animal skins.
Can God commit murder?
Well, it's not murder, but He killed animals. Unless He just skinned them alive and left them running around without their skins on.
Even if God does commit murder,
but God Himself set the precedence for death.
Even if God does commit murder, is it immoral?
I don't know. That would be a hypothetical because God is just a literary character. Can literary characters be moral or immoral?
Supposing he is a real person.
That's kind of changing the context. Within the context of this conversation, assuming that God is a real thing, at least within the context of this philosophical debate, you have to assume that he is.
In my opinion,
real.
In my opinion, because morality is subjective to the individual. Yes, I consider some of what God,
I was using my
the character of Yahweh, immoral. Like the fact that He's Yahweh, like might makes right, doesn't mitigate the immorality of it to me.
Jeff, remember when
drowning people, murdering tribes, and all that? I don't consider that moral.
Jeff,
I would do it differently. So again, I have this sense that I'm superior to God in morality because I would take actions that to me were more moral than the actions God took, and I would communicate in ways that are more effective than the way God communicated. So I already feel subjectively superior to Yahweh as a character. Okay,
so I had a different definition of morality in ethics. That's why I saved that for our philosophical discussions. But anyways, I understand your point. So so then you get to override the creator of the universe because
I don't accept him as the creator of the universe. He's just a literary character.
Again, in this theoretical context, if he was the actual creator of the universe or whatever,
well,
and you were comparing yourself to him to see who has the better ethical standards or whatever.
Yeah, even okay, let's accept that he's objectively the creator. I still consider my standards superior to his.
Okay.
Like if that's the creator.
Yeah. Then who does he answer to?
I think I could communicate better than he could, and I can make better ethical decisions than he could. So he's not very impressive as a creator. Maybe he's really good at creating a universe, but he's not impressing me as a communicator or a.
Yeah, like the demiurge I always talk about.
Yeah. And that may be what led that some of the Gnostics like to even make the conclusion.
So that's why I asked you later on if he was, in your eyes, a perfect communicator. Do you think that would have eliminated all sin from mankind?
No, because I think people, even if people communicate perfectly, people still have people communicate to me all the time, very eloquently and articulately, things that I completely ignore and do what I want anyway. And I understand them perfectly. So they're expressing what they want to say. They're getting their point across. I'm understanding it completely. I'm comprehending all of it, and I'm still choosing to do what I want anyway. So just because you communicate perfectly and somebody understands you perfectly, that does not ensure that they're going to take the action you're trying to communicate about.
Right, because free will, you can
Maybe,
just
Jack, but I'm only going by what's in the Bible. I'm only going by the text. No, I don't sacrifice living creatures, Christ. In fact, I think I throw the spiders and the roaches out the door. I don't even kill them. If I
You
have a
said you're a
spider in my room or
carnivore.
something, I throw it out the door.
You said you're a carnivore, so you eat animals.
Mm-hmm.
You eat them alive?
I don't go kill my own cows, but I do eat them.
Do you pay other people to kill animals for you, or?
I pay the grocery store and the restaurants. I'm sure somewhere the cost trickles down to the butcher and the rancher.
So you absolve yourself of all their deaths?
I don't feel anything to absolve myself of. I feel
So
no good about eating a steak.
So if
at
I
all.
paid
No.
someone to kill Chris, you can't really blame me because it was.
Yeah, I would. If you paid someone to kill Chris, I would definitely blame you. I'd be pissed at you too. That's my co-host.
But you
You'd be
pay
fucking
people
with.
to hitman animals. So like, how's that any? Why are you any holier?
No, see, you're being retarded again. This is just dumb.
Am I?
Yes. Yes, it's
But
a
what's
very
the difference?
disingenuous framing to frame like cattle ranching and butchery as hitman.
I mean, you
Yeah,
do know what goes on at butchers, right? They don't
I
read
know
them
what goes on
bedtime
at butcher.
stories.
I've
And
seen animals butchered before.
they don't wait until they die of natural causes. They do some pretty
Okay, well,
nasty
how is
shit.
that like a hitman? How is like a human paying somebody to kill another human?
It's identical. It's exactly
No,
the
it's not
same.
identical at all. First of all, animals are not human. Second of all, it's not not a hitman. It's not an assassination.
I mean, the ending of life.
Your whole analogy is dumb.
Oh, sorry.
There's no equivalent to me between ending a cow's life and ending a human's life. They're two different categories.
That's why I asked you earlier. At what point during your ancestral tree did your cousins stop to be fellow living organisms?
They don't ever stop being living organisms. If
Why?
you're talking
Why
about
is
chimpanzees, they're still living organisms. That's nothing to do with me as a human.
why is your current set of cousins more special than your ancient set of cousins?
I don't know my ancient set of cousins. I have more immediate and direct knowledge and experience of my existing cousins than I do some vague ancestor that I'm never going to see or meet. There's even distant cousins that I don't know and have no direct experience of that are less important to me than actual cousins that I know. Are you sure you were a science major?
Yes, positive.
Okay, because all this is dumb.
I'm just saying where you draw the line because you don't indicate it.
At
Very
what?
clearly.
At like murdering chimpanzees and cousins?
Yeah,
I
and
don't
why
intend
that's
to
okay,
murder
but
any
but
of them.
but it's not okay to
That
like
doesn't
murder
mean that I could like be more indifferent to them than I am to actual people that I know.
Okay, and that's the question of where you draw the line. Like,
Why should I care about a chimpanzee more than my own cousins? That doesn't make me immoral, and it doesn't mean I
you
want to
should
kill
care about them
chimpanzees.
equally, theoretically, according to your logic.
Well, I don't. No, nobody. Humans. That's what value is. It's prioritizing and ranking things over others. So there's people I value more than others because I know them more. I like them better. They're closer to me. I have more shared experience with them. They might be kinfolk than a random stranger on the bus. There's nothing wrong with that. Every human does that.
I agree. Kindergarten kibitz. Who's
Thank
being
you so much.
retarded and disingenuous? I'm curious.
Well, that would be you.
But I'm an engineer, so if
You
I'm
can
an
be you can be a
engineer
retarded engineer,
and I'm retarded,
and
what
you
does
can
that
be a
make you, Jeff?
disingenuous engineer. That has nothing to do with your.
I love these pissing
Okay.
contests humans get into with how many PhDs they have and all that stuff, and about who's
I can't tell Canuck if he's. I don't think he's being a troll. I think he's trying to make some
No,
points.
I don't think iPhi's a
bad.
troll. Yeah, Canuck. I don't think he's a troll. I do
Nope.
think he genuinely believes what he's saying.
I'm capable of trolling if you want me to, but
he's not like trying to steamroll either. He's having a conversation.
He's just very bad at it. Like I guess
But I believe he's good faith.
Models himself after Yahweh with the communication.
I just like to poke Jeff and see what his beliefs are to test him and see if he actually thinks.
My beliefs are not that mysterious. Basically, the scientific worldview. I'm a naturalist.
Oh, I'm familiar with your point of view. Like I'm saying, you're not the first one I've encountered that believes this. I'm just
I don't think Flo called me a normie last night on the show, and I don't like. It surprises me when people think I'm a normie, but then when I look at it, my beliefs are not that abnormal. Like
you're pretty typical and moderate. So I mean,
secular society.
I'd bet you're even a centrist, politically speaking. So
yes, I'm an enlightened centrist, radically enlightened centrist, base centrism, absolutely.
Plain vanilla.
No. What we consider enlightened centrist is actually does not mean we're in the middle of every issue. It means we have views that are extreme to the right or the left, depending on the issue, and we don't fall into either camp of being like right or left, like specifically. It has nothing to do with being moderate.
I think right and left has kind of lost meaning, and the Overton window has.
I think it did. I think
I agree with you there.
Because what I would define as right is a conservatarian, which we've talked about briefly.
Yeah, well, I've watched you try to sell that one over and over and over.
Yeah, I know. Humans, am I right?
Enjoy your bunker.
Well, some people think that I'm like pitching it like as of like what we're gonna do next week to take over the country, and I'm like, no, that's not how.
I'm also a pragmatist. Like I focus on solutions that are actionable in the here and now.
Sure. That's why I'm building a bunk out in the forest, because I know what this music means. So.
Right. Well, I hope you're not wasting your resources building something too large. Keep it.
No. You don't have to build a compound, Jeff. You can just build a bunker.
Well, yeah, I totally support your right to build a bunker. More power to you.
It's more about, making sure that the sign at the edge of the forest that says "fuck off" is pretty clear, because I don't want any form of solicitation, whether it's your political views or help the zombies or eating my brains out or whatever. It's just.
Well, if you have private property
and
you're building a bunker in the middle of the woods, I can't imagine who's going to go trot out there to solicit anything from you.
You'd be surprised. Give humans an inch and they'll take a mile. Oh, yes, the arrogant thing. I'm way smarter than you people.
People say that about me too.
That's racist.
What?
White people are cave dwellers.
Maybe cave dwellers. We were cave dwellers. Well, I don't know if we actually lived in caves.
What's wrong with dwelling in a cave?
Not every human lived in an actual cave.
It's a very solid structure. It can provide warmth.
I love caves.
I'm glad you like arrogance, because I got plenty of it. Maybe I could share some with Jeff, and I think Chris is good for now.
Yeah, but yours is it's embarrassing. Like I have a lot of ego too, and I struggle with intellectual humility. But
what's embarrassing about my?
I hope that I don't look as embarrassing as you do. Yours is like.
To be honest,
just watching people be so wrong about something that everybody else can see, and they persist in that delusion.
To be honest, you both sounded quite arrogant throughout this entire debate, but it's okay.
Touche. See, I told you Jeff would come around eventually. I'm just working him out of his comfort zone. He's the meme of the dog sitting in the room and the room's on fire, and he's like, everything's fine.
Sometimes I am
okay.
like that. Yes, I have a very low threat sensitivity level. Like my threat detector is it takes a lot to trigger it.
I understand your problem, Jeff. I have become numb to society many times throughout my life because paying attention is quite a headache and interferes with sleep schedules and stuff like that. So, sometimes you just got to tune out.
Yeah, I am. I'm very indifferent, oblivious, detached, all of that.
So my bunker out in the forest, it only consists of interruptions from like squirrels and the random hawk or something, So that's why it's there. It's to get away from all these evil retards.
Yeah, I mean, I totally get that. I've been pretty much still living out of my bedroom since COVID. I don't really interact with real life people anymore.
Fuck COVID, by the way. Did I tell you it gave me permanent bronchitis?
No.
It gave me permanent vertigo.
That was the vaccine, huh?
Well, the vaccine, but the vaccine technically, I mean, I guess it doesn't work the same way as other vaccines.
But you did have it before, right? You caught it early.
I did have it like very early on before it even had like a real name where people knew it as COVID. I got it in like December or November that previous year.
I got the vaccine and I didn't die, so I don't think it's that bad.
It's not for. I mean, I wouldn't say that everyone who gets the vaccine. I would not tell people not to get the vaccine. I'm saying that for me, it had the side effect of it gave me permanent vertigo. So
the vaccine or COVID gave it to you?
I don't know. The permanent vertigo seems to be a common complaint amongst long COVID sufferers. So it may be somehow that the vaccine gave me long COVID instead of but I didn't get it until I got the vaccine. It started the day I got the vaccine shot. So
did you get COVID?
Very early on, like November, December, vaccine was even available. Like a year.
You
before.
got COVID before the vaccine.
Yeah.
And you still got the vaccine?
I mean, at that point, they were saying that there had been mutations and you could get it again and that sort of thing. And my doctor, who I thought was, my doctor didn't he was faith. He thought it was the best thing for me, and
yeah.
Western and I listened to my doctor, and then it did that to me. So I mean, I'm not someone who's going to tell people don't get the vaccine, it's evil or anything. But for me personally, it definitely was a mistake, but it's not a mistake I could have seen coming. So
I don't know if y'all have beaten to death this topic or not. I wasn't around during that time, but I'll go ahead and give you my 2 cents on it. I was rather fascinated by the whole pandemic to learn that if you vote Democrat, you're perfectly fine with government-forced vaccines and shutting down society and putting all small businesses out of work.
Right, yeah.
And if you vote Republican, you're an anti-vaxxer. There's no in between.
Which once again, I am neither one of those things. So once again, that's where the centrist type thing comes in. I both think that vaccines are fine in general. I still think that vaccines can help people. They've clearly saved a lot of lives in our society. In this particular case, the vaccine definitely was a mistake for me. But I also know a lot of people, and pretty much every other person I know, also got the vaccine, and they did not have any issues at all. So I mean, it is something that is unique to me. But I mean, I'm also one of those people that every if I get a flu vaccine, I get the flu, and I get it really badly. So that's why I don't get the I don't get flu shots anymore, because if I get a flu shot, if I don't get a flu shot, there's a 50-50 chance I'm not going to get the flu at all. So it's a better chance. But if I get the flu shot, I'm definitely going to get the flu, and I'll be down for anywhere from 2 to 3 weeks. So it makes no sense for me to get the flu shot, because it doesn't help me prevent getting the flu. So I probably should have known better with the COVID vaccine, but I didn't. I literally was just like, my doctor was pretty insistent about it, and I just listened to my doctor, and I shouldn't have. So
well,
I mean, at the same time, I don't know that I shouldn't have. I mean, I still don't think I don't think I did anything. I didn't do anything that was. It's not like I had information that told me that this would happen, and I did it anyway. There was not even, it wasn't even a side effect that anyone was even reporting at the time. Now it's quite commonly reported side effect, but it's not at that time, that was not something anyone was saying. So.
Well, for what it's worth, anyone that's taking notes, the vaccine did nothing to me, and it didn't prevent me from getting COVID.
Yeah,
And
You still got how long after the vaccine did you get it?
about almost a year and a half later, almost 2 years
Oh
later.
yeah, it only lasted
And
you were way out
so
of the window.
I did get permanent bronchitis from long COVID though, so yay, thanks Wuhan. But anyways,
Yeah.
I'm not anti-vaxxer, and I definitely don't think we should have government mandated medicine and
No, I don't think it should be
lockdowns.
government mandated at all. I don't feel like it should be government mandated at all. My dad, for example, he got the vaccine. He had no side effects from that, but then he got about 3 months later. 3 months after that, he got COVID, and then the COVID somehow led to him having a stroke, and now he's like paralyzed on like the right side of his body. So, they're saying that they're not necessarily related, but at the same time, like he literally got the stroke like 2 days after he was diagnosed with COVID. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know how they're not related, but still, maybe they're not. Maybe it's completely random. But
my general physician, his brother died from COVID, so I said, oh, okay, give me the vaccine. I'll take my chances because of my history with like asthma and bronchitis. I was like, I'm probably not gonna handle COVID very well, so I'll roll the dice with the vaccine. But
right, but then you got it anyway. Yeah, and
then I got it anyway.
My grandfather also got it. My grandfather also got the vaccine and then got COVID and then died. So yeah, so I mean, it's definitely not. The biggest problem I have with the vaccine is that it doesn't seem to have really done anything for anyone I know of. I don't think I know of anybody that got it that didn't get some COVID to some degree anyway. So I mean, it seems like
I never got. I've had the vaccine 3 times.
No, well then you're one person. You're one person. I mean, in my immediate life, amongst my family members and friends that I knew that got it. Every one of them got COVID eventually. So.
I think at this point we'll never know who was right because all the information is so fucked that you just can't trust anybody at this point. You can't trust the government,
at this point,
media, doctors. Nobody has a fucking clue.
It's time to just reset and move on.
Yeah, I agree. I completely agree.
But I do like to encourage people to still have faith in vaccines because every time I hear an anti-vaxxer tell me to vote for Trump and, not my president and stuff, I always tell them that we don't want to make polio great again. So don't give up on modern medicine just yet until we have more conclusive evidence.
No, absolutely. Yeah. No, I mean, like I said, like I'm not an anti-vaxxer whatsoever. Like I've gotten every kind of vaccine, like you're supposed to get throughout the years. So I don't get the flu shot anymore because it always guarantees I get the flu. That's the only one that I stay away from because I mean I've gotten the polio vaccine. I've had like all of the basic ones you get as children. My children have all their basic shots and everything, and they're fine. They're brilliant. They're brilliant children. They had no side effects from any of them. So. Every single person is different, and there are possibilities. It is a rare possibility, but I think it is possible that a vaccine could do something, like as it did in me. It could have negative consequences, but
you always have to weigh, the positives and the negatives. So the theory is that it saves more lives in the long run. So
I mean, and it does, and I think that's probably true. I mean, certainly when you think of like polio,
yeah. There's still side effects from polio vaccines, but the side effect being more human lives are saved in the long run. So,
yep, absolutely, I agree. But I am not an anti-vaxxer by any sense, but I do. I still regret my decision, but like it's not something I said. I never could have seen it coming. So I mean, what could I do?
But I also lost my faith in Western medicine right around the same time I lost faith in the Western governments and politics. So, that's why I'm just like.
When was that?
Mid-20s. Definitely by 30s. By the time I was 30 years old, I was like, this is all fucked.
What date or what years or time period? Like, what was going on in the world?
It wasn't so much in the world, it was just personal experiences. Like, of course, when I was raised in this country, I was led to believe that intelligent people were running everything and there was nothing to worry about. And so
who told you that lie?
My parents and society. And so They told me, like, vote Republican and everything will be fine. And even if they vote Democrat, don't worry. It's a minor setback. It's just, socialism. But anyways, I didn't know all the differences and really care when I was like a teenager. So then when I got educated as I got older, I was like, oh shit, there's no intelligent people running anything. So we're all completely fucked. So I was like, I tried to find like any good doctors to see if there's any of them left, but most of the ones I talk to are just pharma salesmen. They don't really care about you at all. They're just wonder how much profit they can make off of you by pushing pills in your mouth.
And that's one of the things about my doctor that I trusted too, is that he was pretty much the opposite of that. I mean, if anything, he was actually kind of a conspiracy theorist himself. He was telling me like that he thought that there was something nefarious about the whole COVID thing and everything way before it happened. And then whenever he told me he thought the vaccine was safe and everything,
the warp speed vaccine.
Yeah, well, I mean, him and to be fair, him and everyone in his office, they'd all had it. They didn't have any side effects from it, so he didn't have any, and there hadn't been any research or evidence out there since there was no real testing done on it. There was no reason not to. Like in his view, it was like it was just a safety precaution. It didn't seem to have any negative effects. I mean, I don't hold against him. I don't hold against him, but
oh yeah, I mean, I wouldn't blame any doctors that were equally clueless when it hit, because like, what do you do when you don't know what's coming and how to treat it or handle it? And so,
yeah,
I'm sure they were sold under the same impression that like hospitals were going to implode and they're just going to be like bread lines for miles of people trying to get treatment and then dying while waiting and whatever. And so, of course, it didn't turn out that way. But who knew that ahead of time? No one knew how bad. Most people thought it was like most movie representations of like the zombie apocalypse. Where like if you get the virus, we're all dead and all that sort of shit. And people are going to be living in like bubble suits and stuff like that, trying to survive the wastelands or whatever. But I understand the hysteria, but that's why we depend on people with good, calm, intelligent brains to, say, we have ways to handle this and prepare for this, but unfortunately there weren't any. So it was just a bunch of headless chickens running around, making noise at each other, and that was government policy. And so, I mean, you had people arguing about whether or not like masks were going to protect us and shit like that. And, meanwhile, all doctors know those masks don't do shit. You have to wear the hazmat suit masks or you're not, stopping anything. And so,
oh yeah. I mean, like they admitted they lied about it and everything. It's crazy. It's crazy the number of things they've admitted that they lied about now, that people still are as trusting as they are in like at least in the higher governmental medical establishment.
I mean, there's a lot of people that still aren't sure if Fauci was involved or not. They're still not very positive whether or not it came somewhere near China in a lab called Wuhan. They're not real. That's just conspiracy theorists. You don't need to listen to their disinformation.
I mean, it's practically accepted in like about half the media even accepts the fact that it came from the little coronavirus research lab where right outside where the first recorded cases were. I mean, like that entire like that was laughable from day one. Did you ever see that movie Contagion?
Yeah, that's what I was talking about earlier when I said movies was what people think was happening. I was referencing
it was so close to being the exact thing that happened with the way the COVID thing like was sold and everything, but like the whole bat thing and all that shit like that. It's so close to being that thing. It's like the people like they saw that movie and like, we'll just use this as the template for what we're going to tell people.
That was their rule book. They were like, this is how it's going to play out, so we're going to follow the exact same directions.
It really, I mean, it is. It's so scarily similar to the story they told us about COVID that you can't help but like feel like, I mean, I'm not being conspiracy theorist about it. I'm just saying, but it feels suspicious, like no matter how you look at it. It probably isn't, but it feels suspicious regardless.
And all it did to me personally was remind me that if the virus was actually deadly, we'd all be dead now, because again, there's no intelligent people running anything or organizing anything. And so
Here's the thing, though. It's like you notice you guys said a bunch of stuff there that is very fascinating. You're like, well, these people lied, which they did. These people, seemingly didn't know what was going on, so they were just kind of running around and making decisions that everybody has to, live with the consequence of.
Well,
Or at least,
Jack, real quick, I remember not so much decisions as recommendations. So the CDD would put out these recommendations, and then
corporations basically gave people ultimatums like you either do X or
Yep.
you don't work
Yeah.
here.
Yeah,
Or
they
you're
did.
fired.
Well, what you
I don't remember as many of those as, and I was in Seattle the whole, like that was one of the more strict,
It depends on what industry you worked in.
Like nobody forced me to wear a mask. Nobody forced me to get vaccinated. I had options.
Yeah, there was places you couldn't go if you didn't.
Yeah,
have
there were
one, though.
individual places where you, but like I didn't have cops patrolling me on the street if I walked out of my house without a mask.
No, that didn't
Having
happen.
parties on
Yeah,
a
but my
beach
point is-
that were unapproved.
Yeah, no, they literally shut down the beach where I live at for like a month.
Yeah,
or 2 or 3 years.
temporarily for a little while, but
Which made no sense.
You
since
understand
it didn't.
You understand that that's completely unscientific of a like demonstrably it's completely unscientific.
that's what I'm saying. The CDC was putting out recommendations and people were taking precautions based on but none of it was like everyone must do this or
the government told you are not allowed.
And when the George Floyd thing happened, all that went out the window anyway. That's when I started to lose faith in it.
Yeah, you're supposed to social distance unless you're protesting, and then it's okay to like make out with people, in the streets.
I'm not taking y'all seriously anymore.
As long as you vote Democrat, you're allowed to do whatever you want. But if you vote Republican, then you have to follow the rules.
Yeah, there were mandates against church services. Remember, there were people that were arrested for holding church services. That did happen in some places.
Well, they should have just had a BLM protest at their church, and they would have been fine.
That's true.
You got to think smart, not harder.
I do remember like the there was a pastor or somebody who got like arrested for opening his church on Sunday for whatever, I mean, there's a lot. I mean, I think a lot of it got thrown out. I don't think
a lot of that was regional. Like it didn't.
Yeah,
come
it was regional. Yeah.
Okay,
it wasn't.
Each region's handled it differently, so it's not like the federal government imposing. From the
I wasn't
top.
saying that they did. I was just saying that there were people that were arrested.
Some of the framing around this COVID stuff, I question.
But who was selling the narrative to the states, Jeff? Was it the states were just making all the shit up in their heads, or
not even state? Like even within states, individual cities, because different parts of even Washington State did it differently.
It's usually top down, is the way the information flows.
Okay, well, let me ask you this: do you think that a business has the right to not hire you because you didn't get that particular thing?
I think they have the right to.
Broadly, yes.
I think it's silly.
Is it a private business?
I think businesses should have the right to hire anybody they want or not want. Like, and if they want to use that as a criteria, I want businesses to have the employees that they think are best for their business.
That's why all businesses should be private.
That's the same reason I'm against all the DEI stuff and everything. I don't think people should be hired based on on the basis of their race, religion, whatever the case might be. So
yeah, I don't either.
So, but if a business wants to discriminate like that, though, I guess they can. I don't think they should. It certainly shouldn't be mandated that they have to. But yeah.
Just be careful, Chris, because you're going to be labeled a racist pretty soon. Pointing that out.
All of us are racist. We're already racist.
I know.
Oh yeah. I mean, I'm white, so I'm automatically racist, right? I mean, I just by even
just existing.
For some reason, even if I paint my face black, it makes me somehow so white. I don't get it.
I think that makes it better. I can't remember.
the AI seemed to think so. If I was a clown.
I still haven't convinced Jeff that he's racist, though. He denies it at every turn.
No, I'm not racist. I don't treat people. I don't even notice race. Like honestly.
Oh, I
had an Asian friend, and she was British, so she talked with the British accent. And I didn't notice she was Asian. And one day I was talking about Asian people. I'm like, Asian people this. And she looked at me. She goes, well, Jeff, I'm Asian. And I looked at her and it clicked in my brain that, oh my God, she is Asian. All this time she had this British accent. I just thought of her as Teresa. I didn't even notice her Asianness at all. I don't see race.
I don't care about race. I see race. I just don't give a shit.
I mean, I see skin color, but I don't. It doesn't. I don't make meaning of it.
It doesn't make it. I have no. It doesn't mean anything to me.
Jeff, I even recognize my internal desire for preferential treatment for similar races, but I even ignore that.
Like, you think people should treat you differently because you're white?
No, I think all humans feel that birds of a feather flock together. They feel comfortable.
Not always on race. Like, most white people I don't get along with at all.
Let me
I
give
get
you an
along better
example
with black people than I do white people in general.
Let me give you an anecdote, a personal anecdote. Growing up in my high school, we had no racism. We didn't give a shit about race at all, and we had black people in our school, and there was absolutely zero sort of like culture or political influence whatsoever on people's decisions. And yet the black people decided that they preferred to sit together at the same lunch tables and stuff like that.
Because probably culturally they could relate to each other better.
And there was no people like, looking down on them saying like, we don't want to sit with you black people or anything like that. It was just like everybody was friends. No one even cared about race or ever mentioned it. But again, naturally, it just seems like people will just kind of go in the direction they feel more comfortable with, even though I'm not saying they were being racist. I'm just saying that's just human nature. That's just the way they prefer to
agree.
interact
But
with
it's
people.
not always along lines of skin color. It's more culture.
So that's why you shouldn't always think of the term racist. It means you have to look down on other people because of their race. It's not a negative thing.
I think it means that I take race into account when I'm
exactly that's
about how to
what
treat
racism
someone,
is.
and I just don't.
You take race into account in your thoughts and actions. That's racism.
I don't. I'm telling you, I don't.
But not everyone does. Is his point? Like, yes, a lot of people do, but it doesn't mean that every single person does.
I would argue like
maybe
all
you're the
people
racist,
do, but some people just like actively fight it or ignore it or deny it. Is my point.
What did you say?
I said I think all people do. All people have that information filter in their brain that recognizes the environment, and that some people actively ignore it or deny it. They're just like,
no,
I don't give a shit.
I think you're the racist and you're projecting.
I think I've stated my position very clearly, Jeff. I don't give a shit about
whatever you say. I'm telling you, it does not apply to me.
Even though my brain immediately recognizes that some people have dark skin, some people have light skin, some people have yellow skin, whatever. I don't care. I see them in the room, but I don't immediately judge that person. I don't say this person is going to be good or this person is going to be evil, because that's the racism that everyone thinks they're talking about.
So how does that make everybody racist?
Because you already make a decision, even if it's a good one, like even if it's a positive one, Jeff. Even if it's positively correct, that doesn't make it.
You're simply wrong. Like that could if you're talking about yourself, fine, I believe you. But it's completely wrong when you're talking about me.
I think you've been so trained by our society that again that word is so bad that you won't even approach what it means. Let me give you an example of someone else I was talking to the other day.
Why is it so hard for you to believe when I tell you I'm not racist? That I don't. What you're describing, I don't do that.
Let me ask your opinion about another conversation I had with someone else on what your third party view and your feedback on it, Jeff. Can you help me out here? You ready?
Go on.
Okay, so I was talking to another person the other day about racism, and we were talking about the topic of countries. They brought up that countries are racist, and I said, no, race is like genetic material that you're born with. Race is not what country you live in. And even if you tried to pretend that there is a country on earth that is like perfectly racial homogenous, which is there's no such thing, but even if we pretended, that still that you can't equate those terms. So you can't say like I'm racist against Mexicans, for example. Like Mexico is not a race; it's a country. So that's a perfect example of why humans are incapable of having intelligent conversations, because they don't even understand what words mean. They're just so afraid of words. They just immediately knee jerk and say, no, that's racist. As a matter of fact, the SJW in the room was having a complete meltdown about that was the dumbest thing they ever heard when I made that statement that you can't be racist against Mexico, the country. So, and even if you make the statement that I don't like Mexicans, for example, if you made that statement, that's not a racist statement. That's a nationalist statement. You're basing your hate on their nation.
When people say that, they mean the little brown people that make the tortillas.
Okay, Jeff. Do any white people live in Mexico?
Yeah, you're getting caught up on. I'm telling you
I'm
how
not getting
people
caught up on anything, Jeff.
use the word colloquially when they say Mexicans.
I'm not getting caught up on anything, Jeff.
Talking about citizens of Mexico, they're talking about Hispanics.
I'm asking you, do you think that's an intelligent way to have this conversation, is to equate a nation with race?
I don't think that's what they're doing.
That's exactly what they were doing. That was the statement. The statement was,
that
was the dumbest fucking thing I've ever heard by the SJW in the room. They said, that's the dumbest fucking thing I've ever heard.
I listened to your example. Now answer my question. Why is it so hard for you to believe that I don't do what you describe as racism? Like, why can't you take me as my word instead of thinking
because
that
I'm trying to convince
my brain better than I do, just because that's what goes on in your brain and you can't imagine anything else?
Come to the dark side, Jeff. We have cookies.
I don't eat cookies.
I don't really fight it that bad. I just love to
kind of Satanist to the dark side with cookies.
I like to tease people. It's not that important to me, Jeff. I'm not trying to convince you you're racist. I just like to make those fun little thought exercises to see if you can prove me wrong.
Okay.
But if you believe you're not racist, Jeff,
it's not a matter of it's a matter of me telling you I don't do that, and you can either accept my word or not. There's no way to prove it.
That's what I just said, Jeff. I just said, if you believe you're not a racist, I will accept you at your word, and I'll leave it at that.
Okay.
So everyone in the world except Jeff is racist. I'll amend my statement.
Hey, E-Black, you want to come on? We're talking about race.
So the funny part of that little
discussion, a racist on the panel right now.
Yeah, the Grand Wizard, by the way.
Raiden from the other night, by the way.
By the way, they labeled me Grand Wizard during that little exchange, so just FYI.
Tonight. I mean, I could put him on, but
oh yeah, Emperor Dave was there. You can invite him back. He can tell you about how racist I am, because he was there first hand.
Well, the only hint I have to your racism, and I wouldn't say it makes you racist in any conventional sense, is the fact that you can't imagine people not being racist.
I can imagine it. I've just observed it, though.
Well, how would you observe what's going on in someone's head?
I observe when humans are so afraid of certain terms that they'll deny any association with it. So they think, like, for example, being a sexist is such a negative term that they will deny that they are.
No, I'm definitely a sex or a chauvinist, whatever. Like, I definitely have a strong bias towards men and away from women because I get along with men better.
But Jeff, do you know some humans that are so afraid of that term that they'll deny it, even though you see them doing sexist things, saying sexist things?
I'm just not one of them.
Now you're starting to see where I'm going from, Jeff.
What panel were you on? Anytime. Like, stop by anytime.
Were you on that? I wonder, E-Black, were you on like that? I saw a panel earlier.
He was there. He was there.
Okay, I don't.
It was that one.
I saw a panel earlier that had like what's that guy that Snafu Snaps and stuff on it. As the first time I'd actually seen that guy, I clicked on it for a second and it was just like it was 9 people screaming over each other. So I clicked off it immediately. It was like chaos.
No, that was a different one.
E-Black was on Verbal Combat.
It was Verbal Combat with.
I know. I'm talking about earlier today before our show started. There was another panel going that was just like that had like a bunch of those troll people on it and.
I don't know.
And it was I can't remember what it was called now. It was something trigonometry for something, and I don't know. It was very weird. I couldn't tell you what the what panel it was, but it came up my feed, and I clicked on.
By the way, Talcott's streaming now.
Now, Talcott said he was going to jump on. He never did. I mean, we have kind of wound down now. I guess it is 3 hours. We're at the 3 hour mark, so.
Yeah. If you want to wrap up,
if you guys want to go over to
go.
Talcott,
I have my men's group in an hour anyway.
I am curious what the video you guys were watching the other day was. Some Germans arranging things in bleachers or something. I have no idea what y'all were watching. It's like,
oh, in the Discord, that was the Dutch mole. The new season just started, and so we watch each week. They put out a new episode.
So you see that reality show, The Mole?
No,
he is the mole.
I don't watch cable anymore. I've completely disconnected.
I don't either. I don't either. It's just that we only watch stuff that's like online.
And it's in Mexico, ironically enough. This season's set in Mexico. It's 10 contestants, and they're trying to win money, and one of them is secretly sabotaging the others to keep them from winning the money. And each episode, somebody gets eliminated.
Based on who gets the most questions wrong about who the mole is.
Yeah. So they were in the stands they had to arrange these letters to form amounts of money, and somebody was fucking up the challenge for it. They never could get the letters arranged right because there was a mole at work.
I'll check it out next time you guys are checking it out.
Every Sunday afternoon, we're in there watching it.
Word. I enjoyed the show. I hope y'all had fun. I'll catch you around on the
absolutely, man. We'll be back here tomorrow too.
More
later on, fellas.
Pleasant, peaceful conversation.
No promises, but I'll try.
Take care. All right. Well, I guess that's it. Let me get ready to wrap up.
Yeah, let's wrap it up. I don't know.
Bye.
Bye everybody. Thanks for coming to the chat, y'all.
Yeah, Talcott's streaming right now. If y'all need another panel to go, I might hop on for a little while. I have something in an hour, but I can maybe hop on a bit.
I've got a headache. I'm gonna lay my head down for a minute. So I'll see you guys around. Like I might maybe I'll dress up the men's group or something if I can. But
all right, we'll feel better. And
I'm not feeling that bad. I just feel my general everyday migraine just starting to come on. All best need to take a piece of medication thing and lay down for a second. But I'll be fine.
Okay.
I'll see you guys later. Bye.
Okay, bye y'all. Tomorrow.